Little hands, shoeless feet, lonely eyes looking back at me. Will we leave behind the innocent to grieve? On their own, on the run, when their lives have only begun. These could be our daughters and our sons. Just like a drum, I can hear their hearts beating. I know my God won't let them be defeated. Every child has a dream to belong and be loved. Boys become kings, girls will be queens, wrapped in your majesty. When we love the least of these, then they will be brave and free. Shout your name in victory. When we love the least of these. When we love the least of these. Break our hearts once again. Help us to remember when we were only children hoping for a friend. Won't you look around? These are the lives that the world has forgotten, waiting for doors of our hearts and our homes to open. Boys become kings, girls will be queens, wrapped in your majesty. When we love the least of these, then they will be brave and free. Shout your name in victory. When we love the least of these. When we love the least of these. At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name. At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Good morning. Welcome to the King's Report for December 2nd, 2017, eighth year of Chungi, 10th month and the 15th day by the heavenly calendar. I'm Tim Elder, and with Ted O'Grady, our brother, sitting in for the second king of Chanuguk, Hyung Jin Moon. Good morning, Ted.
Morning, Tim. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
It's been a little while. Been over in Beantown.
Oh, you have?
Thanksgiving, yeah.
I see. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Let's start with the weather. It's a clear and 22 degrees outside right now, and it's been rather warm.
Yeah.
You know how Facebook sometimes shows you the post that you put up 2 or 3, 4 or 5, 6 years ago?
Yeah.
Did you do that? And it turns out that 3 years ago today, or this weekend, we were scraping ice off the pavement in front of the church, so that it would be safe for people to walk on as they came into the church. It's not happening this weekend.
No, it's quite nice out there
It's
this
quite
morning.
nice out there this
Yeah.
weekend. Yes.
It's great.
So temperatures have been below freezing during the night, but during the days we've had temperatures in the 40s, sometimes even in the 50s last week or a couple of weeks. And that's going to continue for a few more days,
Okay.
for several more days actually. But then there is a cold front approaching. There's an Arctic Express, as they call it, approaching, and that's probably going to hit us maybe Wednesday or Thursday. And then the highs for the day are going to drop down into the 30s, and then it'll be all downhill from there. But today we're expecting a high of a 47 again, and again this weekend we're expecting highs to continue in the 40s. 48 tomorrow, 48 Monday, 56 on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday 48, and then Thursday I think it goes down into the 30s. We're expecting, as that cold front moves through on Wednesday and Thursday, we're expecting the rain to come, or Tuesday and Wednesday actually, and on Thursday we'll have a high of 38. So that's when the real cool temperature will start to arrive. Still not cold, I would say, but cool temperature will start to arrive. All right, let's go to our Rimas. I'm in Deuteronomy chapter 18 this morning, beginning with the verse 9. When thou art come into the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee, thou shalt not learn to do after the abominations of those nations. There shall not be found among you any one that maketh his son or his daughter to pass through the fire, or that useth divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch, or a charmer, or a consulter with familiar spirits, or a wizard, or a necromancer. For all that do these things are an abomination unto the Lord, and because of these abominations the Lord thy God doth drive them out from before thee. Thou shalt be perfect with the Lord thy God. That's a necromancer is someone who contacts the spirits in spirit world and communicates with the spirits, I guess. But especially we see here in verse 10, no child sacrifice maketh his son or daughter pass through the fire. In other words, don't burn your children.
It's hard to believe people did burn their children.
But this was actually very common in the Old Testament age, or during that time period. And I think the king mentioned one time that really Judaism was or perhaps the first religion that banned that practice and said that we're not going to do that. And this was very important for God that that His chosen nation not be sacrificing their children, which is what the pagan gods required.
If you think about it, how perverse is that?
Yeah. But this is this is the modern equivalent, though, is abortion.
Exactly.
And that's still going on.
I was with my auntie this weekend, my Auntie Debbie, in the 70s. We're strong Roman Catholics, and she was one of the driving forces behind the pro-life movement. She was a firebrand. She used to be out, getting all of us to get out there protesting against abortion. And as I grew up older and got in the UC, I think I got liberalized through the UC, ironically enough. But I saw her this weekend, and I said to her, there's a special place in heaven reserved for you because of what you did to fight for the unborn.
Yeah,
that's one thing the Catholic Church did very well, before the current time. But the Catholic Church always stood up for pro-life, pro-life, pro-life.
Yeah. The prohibition against necromancers, or here one who conjures up or contacting the dead, has unfortunately been interpreted or practiced in Christianity, especially Protestant Christianity, as sort of actually most Christians, be complete denial of the spirit world. Just don't touch the spirit world. And so, and this may be one of the reasons why Christians sometimes have a problem with our ancestor liberation and blessing. But this is I think something quite different that what we are doing, what the king is doing, what true parents have taught us to do, and what he has authorized and empowered the king to do. His father, of course, liberated hell, and we'll be reading from his declaration from that in just a minute. Perhaps coincidentally, or I guess not, the rima that I chose in the Cheonsongyong is from his declaration of the liberation of hell. But father certainly had dominion over both the physical world and continues to have dominion over both the physical world and the spiritual world, and the relationship between the two is very important to the accomplishment of God's providence, because after all, what is bound on earth will be bound in heaven, and what is loosed on earth will be loosed in heaven. And so there's a connection between the two. And Jesus intimated that in the words that I just quoted. So we need to help Christians understand that this prohibition against necromancy, or against calling on the, what is it called, conjuring up, or the contacting of the dead, does not prohibit us from the ancestor liberation and blessing. Let's go
because we had Father, Tim. I mean, if you think about the spirit world, I mean, how many false prophets arise? How many spiritists and spiritualists arise?
Yeah. And even today.
Oh, yeah. I mean, witchcraft, Wicca, all these kind of things, and people can arise as false Christs. So
false Christs and other, I mean, being in the, doing the job that I do now, close to the second king, I sometimes become aware that there are people who come and say, "Oh, I'm the son of Jesus," or "I'm the Messiah." But of course, not only that, but they say, "Oh, I'm the true mother." Or actually, I'm the whore of Babylon. So there are all kinds of people, and so we need the Messiah to sort of do some traffic control, say no, this person is the true mother. This person is the whore of Babylon. We need traffic control here, because otherwise, we'd have half the world would be saying, "I'm true mother," and half the world would be saying, "I'm the whore of Babylon." Sorry, we need to don't knock my microphone. All right. Anyway, so and maybe that's probably the reason why God didn't want the Jews and perhaps the Christians messing too much with spirit world, because there is the spirit world is something that we don't really understand.
No.
But Father is in control of it, and Father knows what's going on there. So we need to always refer to His guidance in dealing with the spirit world.
It's interesting, Tim. The King's been talking a lot about Jordan Peterson lately, and he's a Canadian psychologist, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So it harkened me back to my UTS days when I did a thesis kind of on existentialism, comparing Kierkegaard and Nietzsche and this kind of thing. I wrote it in about 3 days. It was very quickly done. But Peterson's interesting because he's starting with the fact that I am, like an existentialist I am. And I was thinking about it. You think about rationalism. When Descartes started, he said, "I think, therefore I am." And then the existentialist came along and said, "I exist, therefore I am." But God already said, "I am that I am."
That's right, He did.
So starting with the idea of self-consciousness, that I am, Tim, I am here with you, I am now, and seeking for God up through our experience, that seems a safer way. I've always favored that way. I'm not so much in for the deductive reasoning, because that can get really... Peterson also said that ideology and theology is a parasite on religion, on real religion. So,
let's go to the Cheonsongyong, and today my selection is on page 1579 and 80. We're in the book on the way in the completed Testament age, chapter 4, and I'm reading from Father's proclamation of the liberation of hell and opening of the gates of heaven, which he gave on May 15th in 1998 at the Americana Hotel in Pantanal, Brazil. Whereas Hyung is a child of direct descent from the true parents, Christianity stands in the position of the adopted child from another lineage. Only when these two are united can the true parents stand up completely straight on a firm foundation. Thus, the will of the true parents can be fulfilled only when Christianity receives the blessing and becomes as one with Hyung, who is already blessed. Accordingly, it follows that the Unification Church should begin in earnest to conduct the blessing for Christian denominations. Centering on the true parents, the father, mother, and the realm of the firstborn must all become one. Furthermore, the father, the mother, the realm of the adopted child, parentheses, Christianity, close parentheses, other religions, and the non-religious realm must also unify. So that is a paragraph from that, actually 2 paragraphs from that declaration.
It's interesting, Tim. We've been studying the Gospel of John in my HSU class with my brother Jacob Mingala, and there's so many of Jesus' words in the Gospel of John. But as we're getting back down toward the end, chapters 15, 16, 17, Jesus is talking about, he's preparing to go to the cross, and he's emphasizing that I am in the Father, and the Father is in me, and I am in you, and you are in me, talking about his disciples. And he's preaching, I think, in chapter 17, that I'm not speaking about the world in general, I'm speaking about the disciples, that you have been sent by God to me. So Jesus is making a declaration, sort of creating the vertical line, if you will, for God's providence to continue after he dies. And that is so deep, because a true father in his whole life and ministry is actually 100%, 1,000% following and being absolutely faithful and objective to that fundamental victory and fundamental teaching that Jesus is doing in the Gospel of John. Jesus said that I am in God, God is in me, and you are in me, and I am in you, and we are one. And if the world hates you because they hated me. So the whole idea of discipleship, Tim, whether we now, in the theme of I am here now. I mean, I have consciousness now. I can think about the future and past, but I am conscious now. Am I a believer? What am I doing here? Am I a believer? Am I looking for benefit, for personal benefit? Am I sort of looking around the corner, thinking what's next? Am I living in the future or living in the past, or am I here now? Am I a disciple or not? And the cry of Jesus just before he died was to his disciples, be my disciples, in a sense, be my flesh on earth. And we're kind of in the same position, true fathers in the spiritual world, and we are father's flesh on earth.
Well, the second king and Kukjinim are his sons, as well as being his disciples. And that, of course, is the incredible difference between Jesus and true father, that Jesus had to come back and he had to gather his disciples, because the disciples were all that he had. He did not have, if he did have a son, that son was not his disciple. Whereas a father has been able to leave his lineage on the earth that is united with him and is centering on God's will. And that is the tremendous difference that we have. And so Father is able to work through the second king and through the third king later on, and the second king and Kukjinim are united as Abel and Cain, and so Father is able to conduct his providence both in the spirit world and the physical world today as a result of that. And when I read this, I'm reminded that Father emphasized so much the fact that he came on the foundation of Christianity, and there needs to be unity between him and Christianity. I know that when I went first, Father first sent me to Korea in 1978 to be a part of the interfaith movement there, and at that time, Father chose one person each from 6 countries: U.S., U.K., France, Germany, Italy, Spain. What am I missing? Anyway, 6 countries. Germany. Did I say Germany? to go to Korea in '78 and to learn the interfaith work there, and the idea that we would spread it in our own countries later on. We were not able to fulfill that responsibility. But because I was there, involved in interfaith work at that time, I sort of learned about sort of this debate that was going on within the senior Korean leadership among 36 couples and church leaders about whether or not the Unification Church is Christian.
Really?
Yes, and there was a very strong opinion that no, Christianity has rejected the Messiah, and we should just leave them behind and go our own way. It was actually perhaps even a majority among the Korean leadership at that time.
I don't think Father ever did that, though.
No, he didn't. And even in 1998, that's 20 years after I heard that kind of talk in Korea, that Father's speaking very clearly about how he can only, the will of the true parents can be fulfilled only when Christianity receives the blessing and becomes one with Hyung who is already blessed. And Hyung being one with true parents at that time. And I would say that perhaps now, I would dare say that instead of Hyung this is the second king that is in this position, and that when Christianity receives the blessing and becomes as one with the second king, I think probably we could probably say this, because now it's the second king who is in the position of the direct descendant of true parents and the center of the true family. Whereas at that time, perhaps Hyung was in that kind of in that position.
It was interesting last night, Tim. Did you hear the king on Pastor Dave?
No, I didn't.
It was very interesting because Pastor Dave was a guest on the King's Report, and he has a ministry, so he invited the king to come as an interviewee, which he did last night. And the king was challenged. And Pastor Dave naturally came to the point about talking about the rapture. Do you believe in the rapture? Do you? And by the way, is your father the Messiah? So the king, Pastor Dave, he kept saying, "I don't want to put you on the spot. I don't want to put you on the spot," and then put him on the spot, right? But our king did. I thought he did really great. He.
Well, tell our viewers a little bit about that.
Well, he, Pastor Dave. I don't know that much about him, but they started talking about martial arts because Pastor Dave had been a martial artist, and he has a kind of a street ministry in the Detroit area, and he's got about 19,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel, so he's a pretty good viewership. So
don't hold us in suspense. What did the king say about as your father the Messiah?
The king said, yes. I don't want to put the king's words. I don't want to misspeak on behalf of the king.
But I assume he said yes.
Yes, the point being that, yes, my father came in the position of Messiah. Yes, we believe he's the Messiah. And the king just, he carried it off very strongly, very forthrightly. And Dave, what struck me was Pastor Dave's curiosity and asking more and trying to understand. The king brought up Revelation 3, saying that, when Christ comes again, he has a new name, and Christians won't know who it is. So inferring that that was, Reverend Sun Myung Moon, his father. And, Dave had a lot of respect for the king, and I think it's a great example for us. I mean, we're disciples. We are, to follow the example of our king, who's out on the front line now, going into the Christian world. So that's our testimony, Tim.
So this is exactly what Father's talking about. This is exactly the rhema that we received this morning. That true Father can only stand in his position when Christianity becomes one with the second king.
Yeah, and the net result, and Pastor Dave said, well, I'd like to go, and the king invited him on his King's Report again, and Pastor Dave was all, I'd love to do that, and Pastor Dave invited the king to come back on his show again. So, as I love about the king is that he's also a psychologist. He's very deft at understanding human nature and allowing us to grow, knowing that all of us need to grow into our faith and understanding, and that's a lesson for us, especially us older guys.
All right, let's take a break now, and we'll come back with some of the news. We have a lot of news today, so let's start going through that from the Chani Group perspective.
Thanks, Tim.
Boy, wasn't that fun shooting this Tommy gun today?
It's always fun shooting Tommy guns. This one especially, it's just absolutely gorgeous.
All polished and chromed up. It really looks like $1 million.
Yeah. Elliot Ness would have loved one of those.
Yeah, and it's available right now in your favorite dealer, and you go pick one up.
Yeah, just have him call your distributor.
I mean, the gun, was initially made way back when, back in the 27 is this one.
Yeah, model
But
27.
I was surprised by how quick it knocked down those plates.
Oh, 3.5 second run, under 3.5 second run, knocking down a plate right. 341.
I mean, the gun is heavy. It's about, 12, 14 pounds, especially with this drum, but it would actually make...
And that at me, there real quick. Intimidation factor alone.
Fire!
Welcome back to the King's Report for Saturday, December 2nd, 2017. I'm Tim Elder here with Ted O'Grady, and for the second king of Hyung Jin-moon. And I wanted to start this morning. Of course, there's a lot of big news overnight. The Senate passed their version of the tax bill, and there's some stuff in there that we can look at, different from the House bill that was passed earlier. So now they're going to have to form a committee, and I think they're going to do that on Monday. The two houses of Congress will form a committee to come up with a bill that they can both pass, because they have to pass something with the exact same language that before that can then go to the president. And he says that he wants to sign this before Christmas. And then the other thing that happened yesterday, of course, was that Mike Flynn, the former National Security Advisor to President Trump, is now cooperating with the special counsel, Robert Mueller, and is ready to testify against all sorts of people. But before I do that, I wanted to, go into our favorite, favorite Pooh Bear, favorite dictator, our favorite representative of political Satanism in the world, Chinese President Xi Jinping, because he's having a meeting in Beijing with members from political parties around the world.
I heard Obama's over there.
Yes, he is. He's having this meeting in Beijing with political parties around the world, where he is showcasing the success of the governance of the Chinese Communist Party. We can look at a couple of articles now, but Breitbart has a very good article/analysis on that. Chinese leader Xi Jinping welcomed representatives of hundreds of the world's political parties at a Beijing summit Friday, in which he called for China's Communist Party. He called the Chinese Communist Party the world's largest political party, which it is. It has 89 million members.
Do they get to not be a member if they don't want to be?
Yeah, actually, being a member of the Communist Party in China is kind of a step up. You know,
right.
you're in the in crowd when you're a member of the. Not everybody gets to be a member of the Chinese Communist Party. It's
Okay.
because 89 million in a country of 1.3 billion is not a lot. I mean, it's a pretty elite group.
Okay.
Okay, so it's so anyway, this is so he says that he called for the Chinese Communist Party to lead a community of common destiny into the future.
I see.
See that?
Yeah.
So that 89 million is going to lead the entire world into a common destiny.
Common destiny, okay.
Right. 89 million, of course, all under the supervision and the direction of one man, Xi Jinping. And so he's trying to become dictator of the world, I tell you. Among the most important vehicles for solidifying this global leadership, as Xi argued, was the One Belt, One Road project, which consists of China's building travel and trade infrastructure that would grant it complete control over a trade route spanning from Beijing to Western Europe. On sea, the Maritime Silk Road, the other half of the OBOR, the first being the Silk Road Economic Belt, would allow China to control most of the South China Sea and trade routes that reach Africa. The dialogue with world political parties' high-level meeting began on Thursday and will conclude Sunday, according to China's state-run Global Times, and feature representatives from communist organizations in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, along with delegates from the Conservative Party in the UK, Liberal Democratic Party of Japan, and the Republicans of France. Overall, the Times estimates, that's the Global Times, so that's the Chinese newspaper, more than 600 leaders and representatives from about 300 political parties and organizations from more than 120 countries are in attendance. Among the Latin American delegates is the most powerful Marxist group in the regime, the Communist Party of Cuba, which sent several representatives to the event, according to the state propaganda outlet Granma. That's the Cuban paper. The People's Daily, the official newspaper of the CPC, declared the event the first high-level dialogue between the CPC and the world's parties. So he's trying to make he's Xi Jinping, as father wants to become one with Christianity,
Right.
Xi Jinping wants to become one with all the political parties in the world. He's trying to unite all the political. He's uniting all the political parties under him. The first high-level dialogue between the CPC and the world's parties, it is, the publication continued, a necessary step in the CPC assuming its position as the world's leading Marxist political institution.
Okay. So are all these guys going along with this then?
I don't know what got into the Japan's Liberal Democratic Party to go to this kind of thing, or the Conservative Party of the UK. I don't know what they're doing there.
I can understand the Conservative Party of the UK.
You can? What are they doing there? I mean, come on.
They love central control.
They love central control.
Have you ever been in the UK?
Well,
It's
no,
the most surveilled
not really.
society in the world.
Yeah, that's true. I know that.
They beta test everything over there, Tim. They've already beta tested this, and China's following Britain.
Yeah, LDP also of Japan also likes central control. That's true. As the largest party in the world with 89 million members and having to govern a big country with a population of 1.3 billion, of course that's the official figure, the actual figure is larger, every step the CPC takes and every journey it embarks on is a model for other political parties to follow closely and study carefully, the People's Daily stated. The dialogue will open a window for the CPC's foreign counterparts to deeply understand the spirit of the party's 19th National Congress and the concept of socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era proposed by President Xi. At the beginning of this year, when Xi Jinping spoke at the Davos Economic Forum, it actually was the first Chinese head of state or Chinese leader, a major Chinese leader, to speak at that forum. You know, the king pointed out that this is what the elites are doing. They're holding up China as the model for central control, and it's playing out exactly that way. He's now saying, "Yeah, we're the model for the world," and Xi himself reflected this claim to global leadership in his address to the dialogue. Another state media outlet, Xinhua, reported that Xi used the speech to the group to call for a community with a shared future for mankind led by China, i.e. led by Xi Jinping.
But at the same time, of course, all the pedophile and satanic kingdoms are collapsing. As Kuchung said on Thursday night, we're that close to the kingdom of God on earth.
We're also that close to the kingdom of hell on earth.
They're coming at the same time. So
things are still pretty dicey, because Xi Jinping is trying very hard. Look, he had 600 leaders and representatives from 300 political parties and organizations from more than 120 countries. He's doing pretty good.
So what's our strategy, Tim?
Well, let's continue to read this for a while. The Belt and Road Initiative is the practice of the concept, Xi said, adding the Belt and Road has become a huge cooperation platform for countries concerned to realize their common development, as Xinhua reported in his speech. So the Belt and Road actually, it is the way that China is trying to take over a lot of the third world countries, developing countries. Where the phrase third world is
mercantilism. It's just like what the Brits did in the British Empire. They go around the world, take all the resources, right? They're basically buying up all the resources worldwide, and then setting up a mercantile system to take those resources to China.
Well, in this case, China, of course, already they're taking all the resources, but this is the step beyond that, where they're now investing in the capital infrastructure, in the infrastructure of these countries, into the ports, into the railroads, into the highways, with loans. They loan money to these countries, but they also export, in many cases, Chinese laborers to actually do the work, so that some of that money that's loaned to them comes back to China anyway. But then the country still has to repay the loan, and if they can't, then China takes over the infrastructure. So I think they've added a new chapter, I think, to what the British were doing. In his speech, Xi said, building a community with a shared future for mankind is in essence to connect the prospects and destinies of every nation and country closer together, share weal and woe, and this is what Xinhua said, share weal and woe and turn planet Earth into a harmonious family. One nation, one family under Xi.
Xi Jinping?
One family under Xi.
Is he God then?
You betcha, of course, yes. Because that's what communism does, right? It replaces God with the government, and then the government is controlled by one person, and so it's Xi Jinping. OBOR, that's the One Belt, One Road, seeks to reconstruct the ancient Silk Road through bilateral trade deals between China and host countries, in which China would pay for the construction of roads and other critical infrastructure and temporarily bring new jobs to the region. But now Breitbart's got it wrong. They don't pay for it; they loan the money for it.
Right.
Temporarily bringing new jobs to the region. No, they don't temporarily bring new jobs to the region because they're sending the laborers over to do the work. When the construction is completed, however, China will control this infrastructure, giving it a stranglehold on Eurasian trade as well as a potential military outpost in key areas of the Middle East and Africa. Already they have a base in Djibouti now.
Do they?
The plans have already alarmed neighbors like India, which is engaged in several territorial disputes with China and its ally, Pakistan. Xi's speech also addressed climate change as an enemy of picturesque scenery.
That's funny. Is that like a Chinese poem or something?
China is one of the most polluted countries in the world. I mean, in Beijing, come on. The General Secretary of the world's largest Communist Party called for efforts to ensure coexistence between man and nature, cherish the environment as we cherish our own lives, respect and protect nature, and safeguard the irreplaceable planet Earth. In addition to listening to Xi's remarks, the summit will force attendees into panels such as jointly pursuing the Belt and Road Initiative, the role of political parties, according to the Global Times. Despite the clear goal of the summit to influence political parties around the world, Xi also reportedly claimed that China would neither import foreign models of development nor export Chinese model, and ask for countries to copy the Chinese practice.
He said he would not ask them to copy?
He would not ask them to. But that's only true if you, that's only true as long as you agree with what he's doing.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, you're not
We
gonna-
will not, I will not influence you
Right.
as long as you agree with everything I'm doing. All right?
Okay, that's
Is that
fine.
a good deal?
Yeah, that sounds great. No problem, Tim. What do you want me to do?
The dialogue follows the revelation in the Global Times that China has been using its students and professors to attempt to establish Communist Party chapters around the world.
Great, okay. Along with the jihadis.
On Tuesday, the newspaper highlighted a particular episode in which Chinese professors attempted to found a CPC chapter at the University of California, Davis, and were shocked and outraged that doing so in the United States without being registered as a foreign agent is a violation of the U.S. Foreign Agents Registration Act. Well, thank goodness for that act.
At least, so we haven't
Chinese
capitulated.
professors, yeah.
Not 100% yet, eh?
Not 100% yet. But this is what the other side is doing. We need to be aware of this. They have this conference that is going on this weekend in Beijing with these people from 120 countries. 600 people from 300 political parties around the world, and Xi Jinping is doing everything he can to try and unite these politicians, as many as he can, under the Chinese Communist Party, showing the Chinese Communist Party as the model for governance in the world. And what they say is that look at America. Look how, and this is what the Soviet Union used to say, by the way. Look how disorganized America is.
Right.
Look at all the confusion and it's completely out of control. You know, Soviet Union used to say the same thing. You know, this is why the order of the Communist Party.
Efficiency.
Yes, efficiency. I don't know if they actually dared to use the word efficiency, but order and control of the Communist Party is good. You know, because it gives you stability. You know.
That's right.
Well, what happened to the Soviet Union? They used to say that. So now, and the Chinese media have been proclaiming Xi Jinping to be the savior of Marxism. Actually, during the 19th Party Congress that they had in October, this is one of the ways in which he was being praised, that he's the savior of socialism. You know, because the Russians didn't implement socialism correctly, and so they blew it. And Venezuela, you know, the wrong implementation of socialism there.
Okay.
Okay, but now China has found the correct way to implement socialism. Not just China, but Xi Jinping has found the correct way to implement socialism. This is what they were saying. But we will see. We will see. Father said that communism can last 70 years, and the People's Republic of China was founded in 1949. Okay. And so
2019.
2019.
Well, they got 2 years to go.
They have 2 years to go.
But you think about it, Tim, they're just living as parasites off capitalism.
Yes. And that's true. The reason that China's doing so well economically is because they got rid of socialist economics and imported capitalism.
Exactly.
Yes.
So it's a total lie.
Yes, it is a total lie.
It's a shell.
But this is why they call it socialism with Chinese characteristics. This is how they call it. Yeah. Socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era by Xi Jinping. This is the Xi Jinping thought now. Remember Mao thought? Mao Zedong thought? And they now have Xi Jinping thought. Okay. This is thought, all right?
Okay.
Keep thinking. Keep thinking. Keep thinking, yeah. So that's what they are doing.
But then disorganization is freedom. I mean,
yes.
Freedom is uncomfortable.
And this is the thing, you know, we embrace confusion. I like chaos. Yeah. And this is the reason, you know, that it was so wonderful that the American public rejected Hillary Clinton. Because she was in favor of control, whereas Donald Trump, I think, is more comfortable with not necessarily confusion or chaos, but at least less control. Right? We're still, that America has become so centrally controlled that we're still kind of trying to push the pendulum back the other way right now. But certainly, at least we're not trying to push it further towards control, which is what Hillary Clinton and the Democrats would have done. No word on whether the Democratic Party is represented there this
Chuck
weekend.
Schumer there? Nancy Pelosi?
I don't know. Nancy Pelosi, yeah. Well,
Maxine Waters over there?
I would
She would
hope
love that.
so, yes. She should feel right at home.
Beach 45.
We should probably check on the current whereabouts of Nancy Pelosi and Maxine Waters. They may be there. I don't know. We should call them up and see where they are. All right.
Just back to Kook Jung's point, just to pop to mind, he on Thursday night, we had a meeting over there and watched Alex Jones on InfoWars about this pedophilia scandal, the actual implosion of the satanic kingdoms. All of this coming out now in the U.S. And Kook Jung he's like a real visionary. He sees things ahead, and he's saying, "Hey, what we're seeing right now is the collapse of the satanic kingdoms of the world completely for the first time in 6,000 years. And we're that close to the kingdom of God." And I was sitting there thinking, well, what is actually the kingdom of God? The temptation of China or communism or centralized government or, being with Hillary Clinton or any of these is that we can, in a way, avoid our responsibility as sovereigns. We can just kind of stay as archangels as such. We have this discussion in the Sanctuary Church, obviously. So if we do not want to be sovereigns, if we do not want freedom, then we will opt for central control. And we might think, Xi Jinping's thought is a good idea. I can go work for Jeff Bezos and,
Yes.
in one of his, his shipping departments there.
Yes.
And everything would be taken care of for me. Maybe reach the point where we'll just be given money by the state, not own anything.
Yes.
And life will be better than it's ever been, less complicated.
Yes.
But that's what it is, the kingdom of heaven. And Thursday night, I'm looking at all our brothers and sisters there and thinking about myself, 40 years as a unification member, trying to wrap my head around Father's thought. Because Father's thought also was very global. I mean, Father gave the idea of an international highway, and Father, toward the end of his life, was working with the United Nations and working with the top leaders of the world. I guess with the idea of flipping them.
Yes.
Flipping them to God's side. As long as Father was here as a Messiah, he could take all that foundation at one time and flip it. I think that's what Father was trying to do. But because that didn't happen, now we have a different road to go. So are we going to choose freedom and chaos? Are we going to step into our sovereignty? Or do we want to have a nice, comfortable life and just have things sort of easy? And here's your monthly stipend.
Yes.
That's where you're going to live. Go to work over here and watch your TV. Here's your iPhones. And just, believe in Xi Jinping thoughts and have fun.
And that's the problem with, that's the lure, I suppose, of being a slave. You just eat what you're given to eat. You wear what you're given to wear. And you sleep in any place that you're given to stay and sleep, and you have no responsibility, and you have no freedom. That's the small print, is that you have no freedom. But God created us to have freedom and to have creativity, and to have creativity we need freedom. But also being free means exercising our creativity, which is, when people first become free, it's a difficult thing to do, because it's like a muscle that has become atrophied. It's difficult to all of a sudden wake up one morning and start exercising your freedom and creativity. Some people are able to do it because even when they were slaves, they were thinking in a way, in a sort of in a free manner, even when they were slaves. And so when they're finally when the ropes are cut, they can just jump out and start thinking relatively freely and relatively creatively. But many people, it's very, very difficult. And when they're emancipated, they turn around and say, okay, now what? What am I supposed to do? Anything you want. And they're frozen.
Yeah.
And they say, okay, when are you going to give me power to do something? You already have it. No. You have all the power. I have no power. When are you going to decentralize your power? You have the power. It's right in front of you. Just pick it up and start using it. And they're completely frozen. Yeah. And it takes time. And you know, it's a process. And it takes time for different amount of time for different people, I think. It's a process where people start small and start growing into this freedom. But it's a shock because it's a completely new way of thinking of themselves.
That's right.
To think of themselves as owner of Cheonryukuk. We recite those words as the owner of Cheonryukuk, as the owner of Cheonryukuk, as the owner of Cheonryukuk. But what does it mean to be an owner of Cheonryukuk? To be in these, I think it means, for one thing, it means to be in the subject position to Cheonryukuk, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So an owner is not in the object partner position. The owner is in the subject partner position to Cheonryukuk. So yeah, you can do anything you want. May I? Don't ask for permission.
Right.
Don't get, leave this permission culture, right? Permission culture. Can I? Just do it. Take responsibility for the results. And then if you are successful in something, if you do something and it's a success, then you have an offering that you can give to true parents. Say, here, this is what I've accomplished. Father said that there's no freedom without accomplishments.
It's true. That's fundamental divine principle.
Yes.
No freedom without actual results.
Yes. No freedom without results, accomplishments. Shilchok in Korean. But that shilchok, those accomplishments or actual results, they have to come from our creativity and from our freedom.
But the thing is, Tim, there's no time gap. This is another thing. The idea of I am that I am. When was Moses asking who God is, who are Yahweh? The word Yahweh means I am, apparently. But God said, I am. Who are you, God? I am. So the idea of freedom is, well, when we step into our sovereignty, or whatever I do, if I pick up this glass, these glasses here, I say, all right, I'm the owner of these glasses. Okay, now I'm free to do something with these glasses. Okay, I'm going to put them on my eyes, and now I have an actual result. I can now see better and read the Bible, for example. So it's like, to me, it's like the offering is immediate, because God, who's incorporeal, created us to be His substantial body. God wants to be free through us. So there's really not even a time gap, because the fact of the matter is that we only live in a succession of moments anyway, only because we're self-conscious and we have the ability to project ourselves into the future or to project ourselves into the past, that we have any idea that we're living anywhere other than the present. So as soon as we decide to be owners, Tim, we are owners, and then we're liberating God in that sense. So God is waiting.
Yes.
I think God is just waiting for us to step into that and say, well, I don't want to tell you what to do, guys. You tell me, you do it, and we can have fun here in this amazing creation that we built that has infinite possibility. So, I mean, right here in Northeast Pennsylvania, I mean, God asked me, okay, Ted, you want to be free? Go to the Poconos and live in this little bungalow surrounded by these veteran sheepdogs that, going to protect you. God didn't say, okay, Ted, you want to be free here? You can have a nice palace here next to the Queen of Buckingham Palace and all these attendants, and you don't have to worry about money anymore, and all your family will be united and happy and harmonious, and everything will be great. No, God said, go to the Poconos and pioneer if you want to be free.
Okay, let's take a break now and go on to that. It's not the only news. The Chinese Communist Party is a Congress, that's their world political party or whatever they call it. Congress is not the only news today. So let's take a break and go into other news as well. We'll be back in a minute.
Magnum research, and auto ordnance. The Carr Firearms Group. With a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology, it's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Carr Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood, the history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun, to the best in compact concealed carry, Carr Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Carr Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit carr.com today.
And welcome back to the King's Report for Saturday, December 2nd, 2017. Tim Elder and Ted O'Grady in for the second king of Cheongguk, Hyung Moon. I want to go through some of the headlines before we get too involved in our discussions this morning. Of course, the big news yesterday was that President Trump's former national security advisor, Michael Flynn, has pled guilty in a plea deal with the special prosecutor. He's pled guilty to lying to the FBI. And the report is that Flynn says Trump directed him to make contact with the Russians. He feels the president has abandoned him. He's prepared to testify against President Trump, his family, and the White House staff. A judge says the deal requires assistance in prosecution of another person, but Panetta says it's a stretch to say that contacts with the Russians broke the law. A magazine asks, what does collusion mean? There's a lot of discussion on just what happened and whether or not it even breaks the law. I mean, there's why is it such a bad thing to be talking to Russians? And also on other headlines, Matt Lauer will not receive that $30 million payment that his lawyers were thinking of trying to get him. Hillary Clinton sees karma in firing. Of course, Hillary had some beef against Matt Lauer. Republican congressman is behind the secret $84,000 sex harassment settlement, and he's been unmasked. It's the Blake Farenthold, a Republican of Texas, used funds to end a dispute with his communications director in 2014. Lauren Green, the Texas Republican's former communications director, sued her boss in December 2014 over allegations of gender discrimination, sexual harassment, and creating a hostile work environment. Green said another Farenthold aide told her the lawmaker said he had sexual fantasies and wet dreams about Green. She also claimed that Farenthold regularly drank to excess and told her in February 2014 that he was estranged from his wife and had not had sex with her in years. And when she complained about comments Farenthold and a male staffer made to her, Green said the congressman improperly fired her. She filed a lawsuit in U.S. District Court. The case was later dropped after both parties reached a private settlement. I've been asking for the names of the people who've been using taxpayer money to settle these sexual harassment complaints that those names be made public, and I'm glad that one has come. But that's $84,000. We still have millions of dollars, more than $10 million, well over $10 million in taxpayer money that's been used for that purpose, and so I think we need to know the others as well. Also, I want to know the decision process of how it came that this $84,000 was taken from taxpayer money. One would think that it should be taken from Farenthold's own personal funds. I would like to know how that came about.
Miscellaneous expense.
Well,
It's goodwill. You know, it's
So
Whatever expenses you can't, delineate, they're miscellaneous.
I think this is part of draining the swamp. We need to know. It's probably a very small part of the swamp as a whole, but at least let's chip away at this portion anyway. Let's find out just how does this process work, that when a congressman or senator is accused of sexual harassment, that taxpayers wind up footing the bill for that situation. We need to know the decision-making process for that. Let's see, Manhattan, let's see here. Okay, and then Geraldo Rivera apologizes to Bette Midler, other women. Pam Anderson, Weinstein accusers knew what they were getting into by going to hotels.
Pam Anderson. Well, someone's got to call out the women here.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Manhattan DA accused of stalling the probe. Another Democratic congressman has been fingered. Update Conyers to decide within days on political future. Pelosi suffers face spasms, a brain freeze while denouncing. I can see Pelosi's in a tough situation. She's probably having kind of a cognitive dissonance. But, she's in a position to have known about this kind of thing all along. So she's been, Sheriff ends hugging. Don't know when past will haunt. MSNBC, Morning Joe ups ante, calls for cabinet-led coup. Sociopath Trump must be removed. Robots could soon replace a third of American workforce. Okay, we had that yesterday. Thousands of empty seats at NFL Stadium. Let's see. Why Saudi Prince Al-Walid's friends, in quotes, have abandoned him. L.A. homeless encampments grow and grow. Illegal doomsday bunkers found in Utah. Prompt probe. Putin hails traditional values in First Church Congress. Russian parliament to bar all U.S. media. HIV breakthrough as cancer drug could hold secret in curing the virus. And let's see, Kamala the inevitable, female Obama, new Kennedy. So she's apparently sort of rising as the most likely Democratic presidential candidate for 2020. No, this is Kamala Harris.
Who's that?
She's I believe she's a member of Congress, House of Representatives, but she's been sort of positioning herself, and other people have been trying to position her as as sort of the future of the Democratic Party. This is a story in the U.S. News and World Report. She's a black woman, and she's senator. I'm sorry, she's a senator.
Where is she from?
She's from California. Yeah, for a couple of hours on a recent Thursday, Senator Kamala Harris of California became the favorite to win the Democratic Party's 2020 presidential nomination, according to the odds makers, that is. A predicate, a website that allows election junkies to place real money behind their political prognostications, has been asking thousands of its traders who they think will be the party's next White House standard bearer. Harris, just entering her 12th month as a senator, has remained among the top three candidates since the market opened August 30th. The trio of other front-runners, Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont, Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts, and former Vice President Joe Biden, are no surprise given their well-established national followings. It's the 53-year-old Harris who has rocketed up the chain of fresh possibilities this year, as she's been feted by elite donors, fawned over by Democratic establishment, and elevated by a smitten national press corps. She's black, she's a woman, she's from California. How can she lose? As the cultural and ideological antidote to the current president, her ascension was almost inevitable, but it's also been in motion for years. Ever since she stepped into the public arena, Harris has been bathed in great expectations. When he was president of NBC Universal, CNN's Jeff Zucker broke his policy of supporting candidates and introducing her to New York power players as important for the entire country. Former Los Angeles Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa predicted in August that she's going to be knocking on doors in Iowa. In defending her against liberal critics in September, Hillary Clinton singled Harris out as one of her favorite Democrats. Later that month, Guinevere Catchings-Hess, the president of the Black Women's Agenda, introduced Harris at a luncheon as the unsilenced, the uncensored, the unstoppable. At a time when the Democratic Party remains adrift in the political wilderness, still painfully sorting out its last national election loss, while simultaneously trying to turn the page anew, Harris has vaulted over a fleet of venerable talent to bear the torch of former President Barack Obama's legacy for the next generation. So, Kamala Harris.
Okay, so
Remember that name.
So this is all fake news as well.
But I think she's the one that Democrats are beginning to rally around.
She's only 12 months as a senator.
Yeah, well, Obama, I think, was only
So it's similar to
similar
Obama's, right?
situation.
We don't know enough
yeah.
about her, so she looks good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a continuation, isn't it? Of
The fact that people don't know her is an advantage.
It's a plus, yeah. And everything is so deeply politicized that, yeah. In America, you can create anything really.
Yeah.
In media,
But, yeah.
so enough support.
Anyway, we'll see. We'll see what happens there. The Zucker says she's important for the country. Staff whispers, though, that she has a stormy temper. Whoa, wait a second. We don't want to know too much about her. War and racist identity claims becomes a problem on the left. Elizabeth Warren. I think Trump is really succeeding. This is the thing that one of the articles that we read last Wednesday or last Saturday, where one person was saying that the thing that Trump does very well is that he attaches a nickname to someone.
Yeah.
And he keeps repeating it, and he doesn't give the other person the chance to respond. Because as long as you're talking, the other person doesn't have a chance to talk, is what this person was saying. And so he's really succeeding in bringing down Elizabeth Warren with this Pocahontas nickname, because she lied about her Cherokee heritage, and now that he's bringing that out again and again and again and again and again. And so I think, that she's going to be sinking. She probably will not have much of a chance in 2020.
The thing about Trump's branding, though, it's always based on something true, which is why it's so why it sticks. Like with Lion Ted Cruz and Low Energy Jeb Bush.
That's right.
Those
are examples. Those are examples. Yes.
Fake news. Also, fake news was given to us by Donald Trump. Now, fake news is part of the in the dictionary.
And apparently, CNN is trying to ban that phrase. So, Marines now looking for untapped market for new recruits. Germany.
U.S. Marines.
For Americans living in Germany, it's almost about to get a lot easier to join the Marine Corps. Starting on February 15th, the Marine Corps will operate a recruiting substation at Kleber Kaserne, a U.S. Army base in Germany, and Gunnery Sergeant Christopher Nueves, who is assigned to the facility. A Marine stationed in Germany had suggested opening a recruiting facility because Americans were returning to the U.S. to enlist in the Corps. It's a market we're not really in, he said. We're not really sure how it's going to go. They proposed it and figured it will save individuals that are interested in who are interested in joining the Marine Corps. So, no, I don't know, but you can join the U.S. military overseas. You can join. You can do that. New York Times tightens its paywall. Okay, first baby from uterus transplant in U.S. born. Russia calls USA threat to destroy North Korea. Bloodthirsty tirade. There's an interview with a sex robot. Recognize owners with cameras and eyes. At least they can recognize its owners. Sphinx head found in California. Don't worry, this is the archaeologists are excavating lost city of Cecil D. DeMille.
Really?
So it was a movie set, I guess. Study smart people have better connected brains wired to outperform. Doctor dilemma over unconscious patients do not resuscitate tattoo. So a guy came into the hospital and it says, "Do not resuscitate" on his chest.
Oh, right, okay.
So, and apparently I read the article and they followed that. Yes.
Did they?
Yes, they followed that. And he
it's
died.
a legal document, The tattoo on your chest.
Yeah, they had a big debate about it, but they finally went ahead and followed that. Yeah. German police find device near Christmas market. Roger Stone doc kicks off Oscars campaign with L.A. screenings. And Soros' oppression in Hungary is worse than under the Soviets. He's having trouble in Hungary.
He is Hungarian, isn't he?
He is Hungarian, yes.
Is he actually live there? He lives in the U.S. Does he live in the U.S.?
Right now, the prime minister. Hey, listen.
Yeah.
When you're like Soros, all right.
Yeah.
The idea of where do you live is answered. Well, which day of the week are you talking about?
See,
I'm in next week. I'm in the south coast of France. I'm in the South Pacific. I'm on my boat. What do you mean? Where do I live?
Okay. I mean, I wonder where the guy is. You know, it's like Emperor Palpatine. Where is he today?
Hey, he's everywhere. He's everywhere. Don't worry.
By the way, new Star Wars movie coming out December 15th.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sometimes, is it going to be good? Sometimes these franchises get pushed too far.
No. Well, it was good last year. I'm going to miss that one because I have a tradition of seeing this with my boys over in the UK. But yeah, I'm going to be a little lonely about that.
Okay, well,
Tim, I'll invite you to go to Star Wars with me. Will you, Tim? Will you go see Star Wars with me?
All right. Yes. Let's do that.
Okay, let's do that.
Yes,
okay?
let's do that. World's longest lasting rainbow appears for 9 hours. Do people really time these things? Come on, I don't believe this. Waffle House customer cooks own meal after finding staff sleeping. This guy went to the Waffle House in the middle of the night, about 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. I read this story. And he wants a waffle, all right? Or he wants a particular item on the menu. And he finds the staff sleeping in one of the booths. And he said he was drunk with vodka at the time. So anyway, okay. And he goes back and he fixes his own menu, adding a few extra pickles and stuff. And he eats it. And then he takes selfies while he's doing it and he posts it. Yeah. To his credit, he came back later in the day and paid for it. And Waffle House issued a statement how, we don't want customers going behind the counter or to the grill for safety reasons. Anyway.
It's freedom and responsibility, Tim.
No word on what happened to that sleeping employee.
I hope he's okay. I'll get a second chance.
Woman gives birth to giant tumor she thought was a baby. Maybe that's a good reason to get prenatal care.
Wow.
I'll bet the ultrasound would have revealed that it was not a baby.
Gosh.
Cop taunts, was it a boy or a girl? Can't really tell. Cop taunts shooter in court. See, Casper Mattress sued for wiretapping visitors. Republicans have votes for tax bill. In fact, they did. That passed last night. Drudge Report, I'm sure, will be updating that headline in the next couple hours.
A Senate vote.
The Senate vote. Senate, yes. Senate.
That's big news.
Senate did pass the tax bill last night, about 2 a.m., I think, early this morning. Former NSA employee pleads guilty to taking classified information. Norman Lear, age 95, shooting new pilot about life, sex, and nursing home. I'm sure we're all. I will not go with you to see that. All right.
No, all in the family.
Lady tests risen on retirement community neighbors. Paper Google. We did that already yesterday. See, Silicon Valley struggles to add conservatives to its ranks. Minister. This is sick. Minister urges prayers for Prince George to be gay. That's sick.
Be gay.
Yes. Minister is urging us to pray for Prince George of the UK to be gay.
Is this an Anglican bishop?
Let's not even go into that. It's sick. Supermoon set to rise. Tomorrow's moon apparently is going to be a supermoon. It's the largest moon of this year. I guess the moon is getting closer and closer. We're that far from having the moon crash into the earth.
With that close to the kingdom of heaven too, Tim.
Yes. Text to use swarms of terrorists to use swarms of killer robots. Yeah, you see. This is we can see that coming. Study in what New York City rats have evolved into uptown and downtown breeds.
Really?
Yes.
At the jazz clubs uptown?
I'm sure there's discrimination. I'm sure there's racism going on there. Yes. Hero military dogs. Yeah, we did that yesterday. University newspaper includes now no whites allowed opinion section. Baltimore sees 319th killing, eclipsing last year's homicide total. Shock video: woman delivering Amazon package poops in front of home.
Well, that's a good argument to get one of those.
Another reason,
those smart lock in there, Tim. If she had the smart lock in there, she could have just beeped in, got into the home, and used the toilet. You see,
what's a smart
lock? You know, you said the other day, Amazon's idea that you have a smart lock, and then the Amazon guy can get in your house.
Oh,
yeah, you get in your house. So instead of inconveniently leaving the package outside. You just allow him to go in and leave the package inside. So, that's an argument for that. If you have the smart lock, she could just pop in and use the toilet.
So let's take a break for now and come back. We'll start going through some of the more serious articles after this.
Okay.
If not
And welcome back to the King's Report for Saturday, December 2nd, 2017. Tim Miller here with Ted O'Grady and for the second king of Chinook, Hyung Moon. And I know we're going to get to Flynn, all right? We're going to get to Flynn. We're going to get to the taxes.
Okay.
But there's other important stuff going on here.
Okay.
All right? There's other important stuff going on here, which other people may not think is important, but I think is important.
Okay.
Suzanne Venker on Fox News has published a story, an opinion piece. Lauer's firing teaches us that everyone is replaceable at work. That's why this matters. And I read this article, and I was really inspired because, you know, one day someone in my high school class wrote me, and she was asking me how successful I had become. And I had a kind of a visceral reaction against that question, because the way she asked the question sort of implied, okay, to me anyway, okay, here's society's standard of success. Right. Where are you on that standard? Right. That kind of a thing. Yeah. So I don't really go by that thing. All right. Okay. But anyway, so perhaps I was reminded of that when I read this because this is important. This is important, folks. Listen to this carefully. Personally, this is Suzanne Venker. I've never been more proud of having made my family, my relationships, the focus of my life instead of my career. It wasn't easy going against the grain all those years, but it has made all the difference. That's what I thought when I heard the news Matt Lauer's firing. I didn't think, oh, that skunk, or there goes another sexual predator. No, what I thought was that inappropriate sexual behavior can mean anything, literally anything. I'm not suggesting Lauer is innocent, but he has now intimated that there's more to the story than meets the eye. There's always is. One of the reasons he was fired is that it's easier for companies to fire people than it is to deal with the legal costs and loss of reputation that would ensue if the employee stayed. Nevertheless, you will now hear an earful from writers and pundits about how terrible men are at their core. But to me, there's a different lesson to be learned, and that is this. We are all expendable at work, every single one of us. At the end of the day, a job is just a job. While at home, we are irreplaceable. That's why getting the family thing down is critical, and why our lives should reflect that. Careers are, or should be, the side dish. Sadly, that is not how we operate. Instead, our culture hails work as the be-all, end-all, especially for women. And what do women do in response? They spend at least a decade, usually more, on their educations and career. They get tunnel vision. They believe their life's purpose will be work, and thus ignore the weight of marriage and family, often until it's too late. But careers can change. Yes, they can be rewarding, but most of work is just work, and a job can lose its luster, or it can come to an abrupt end, as it has for Matt Lauer. And if we lose our job, one hopes to have a rock-solid family to fall back on. Something tells me that will not be the case with Lauer. In fact, I read that his wife has left the house.
All right.
Yeah. When we lose our job for whatever reason, health problems, being fired or let go, we can usually get another one. We can't say that about family. If our marriage and our family breaks down, we can't just go out and create a new one. Doesn't it make more sense then to make family, not work, the focus? If you have grown children who are just beginning to map out their lives, why not use Lauer's story to teach the valuable lesson that it doesn't matter how rich or popular or successful you are in the world outside your doorstep. There will always be people who want to drag you down. The cultural landscape is bleak. Men and women are finding it harder than ever to make love work. Children too are suffering. As Erica Commissar writes in her new book, Being There, young women who have been pushed their entire lives to achieve at a high level tell me that if they step off the corporate ladder, they can never get back on the same level. That's true. You may never be the CEO of a bank or a corporate law firm if you choose to make your family your first priority. But you may not have emotionally healthy children or have a close relationship with your children now or when they're adults if you make your career your first priority. We know these things, yet we continue to talk about and emphasize work. Work has become our drug of choice. It's too early in the morning, guys. the fact.
Anesthetize. Yeah?
Thank you. Anesthetizes the fact that that's as close as I can get at this hour of the morning. The fact that our relationships aren't working. So tell your kids not to make work the center of our lives. Their raison d'etre, see, I can pronounce raison d'etre, I can get close to French even, but not that anesthetized. Encourage them instead to focus on family, are choosing the right spouse and making good decisions where their relationships at home are concerned. It's the best investment they'll ever make.
Yeah, some of us are on the other side of a lot of mistakes in that area, really.
We are all, I think, and I understand, but we are all, because, especially, in the first generation that followed Father, we definitely put our work or our mission before our families, and maybe for that period that was necessary because there was a certain limited time that the Messiah was on the earth, and he needed to accomplish as much as he could during that time, and we needed to do everything that we could to help him do that. But yeah, this really rings true, I think, for all of us.
It does.
So we all put our missions before our families. But this is.
I think it's also reorientation for us, Tim. As older people. Personally, there's a lot of bad decisions in that area in my life, or decisions that were made, maybe in the context of what you're talking about in prioritizing Father's mission. But it was always a choice that I made. But all choices have consequences. And but on the other side of that, what I've found is that God in His mercy honors us. He's honored everything we've done. And in the theme of the present moment, the living God who is with us right now is loving us and guiding us. What we can't do, in my estimation, is carry resentment about what has transpired in our past. Our younger couples that are coming up now, the new blessings, and even our younger than us generation, the 50-year-olds, the mid-40-year-olds, who in our community are very much emphasizing taking their crowns seriously as kings and queens and tribal messiahs, and prioritizing that. That is, Mark 4:23 to us. Those who have ears to hear, let them hear. That's a message to us from God. So it's not too late for us, Tim, to practice the original standard and to be good family men and good kings and queens of Chonoguk.
Yes. 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 And as long as I think as we, many of us are now in the process of bringing our families back together. And I think as long as we hold on to Father and hold on to the truth and hold on to God's absolute standard, then eventually people will be attracted to God, and the closer they get to God, the closer that they'll get to us. I believe that. All right, let's finally get to Michael Flynn. Former Trump National Security Advisor Michael Flynn pleaded guilty Friday to lying to the FBI about conversations with Russia's ambassador and disclosed that he is cooperating with the special counsel's office. Flynn is the first person inside Donald Trump's president administration to be reached by special counsel Robert Mueller's probe. The developments are a sign that the investigation is intensifying, and details revealed Friday provide the clearest picture yet of a coordination between Flynn and other Trump advisors in their contact with Russian officials to influence international policy. This is a CNN article, by the way. And we still don't know what was wrong about this, what was illegal about this, all right? So as if we get a sense that somehow Russians are untouchable, that you're not supposed to touch them.
Okay.
If you touch them, then you get the death penalty. So it's not yet clear just what is being done wrong here. Okay, so they contacted Russians. So what? We contact Chinese, we contact Vietnamese, we contact Indians, we contact everybody. So what's so special about the Russians? Anyway, according to an FBI statement, Flynn communicated with then Russian ambassador to the U.S., Sergei Kislyak, after being asked by a senior Trump transition official to find out how foreign governments stood on a coming UN Security Council resolution about Israel. The prosecutors did not name any transition officials. So to find out how foreign governments stood on a coming U.S. Security Council resolution, is that bad? Is that illegal? Sources familiar with the matter told CNN that Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, is the senior official referred to in the statement of offense. An attorney for Kushner, now a White House senior advisor, did not comment. The White House late Friday morning that nothing about the guilty plea or the charges implicates anyone other than Mr. Flynn. So right now, Flynn is being accused of lying to the FBI, and that is a crime.
Okay.
When the FBI asks you something, you're supposed to tell the truth. And that, by the way, is the crime that usually gets people who are trying to cover up something. And even if there's no crime, if you cover up a non-crime, that's still a crime. The cover-up is the crime.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So if the FBI asks me, did you have 2 eggs this morning or 3? And I lied to them, it doesn't matter how many eggs I had, but lying to them matters.
Okay.
You see what I mean? So that may be what's going on here. By the way, I don't have any eggs for breakfast. That's the truth.
Don't they usually put lie detector things on you when you are interviewed by the FBI?
I don't know. I've never taken a lie detector test.
Gosh.
And that's not even on my bucket list. The conclusion of this phase of the special counsel's work demonstrates again the special counsel is moving with all deliberate speed and clears the way for a prompt and reasonable conclusion, Ty Cobb, a White House lawyer, said in a statement.
Ty Cobb.
Ty Cobb. There you go.
Did he get over 300 last year?
Probably not. In court Friday morning, Flynn's only comments were to answer yes and no to questions from the judge. He told the judge he has not been coerced to plead guilty or been promised a specific sentence. Flynn faces a maximum sentence of 5 years in prison, according to federal sentencing guidelines, though the judge Friday morning stressed he could impose a harsher or lighter sentence. In a statement, Flynn said he acknowledged that his actions were wrong, and through my faith in God, I am working to set things right. My guilty plea and agreement to cooperate with the special counsel's office reflect a decision I made in the best interests of my family and of our country. I accept full responsibility for my actions, he said. Flynn is the 4th person connected to Trump's campaign to be charged as part of Mueller's investigation into possible collusion between the Russian government and members of Trump's team, as well as potential obstruction of justice and financial crimes. The others, by the way, they were indicted for financial crimes that were committed way before.
These are unrelated to Russia.
Unrelated to Russia and unrelated to the Trump campaign. They were committed way before these people joined the Trump campaign.
I mean, all this could have been avoided if Rudy Giuliani would have been appointed Attorney General instead of Jeff Sessions.
Woulda, coulda, shoulda.
What happened there?
Yeah. Trump's former campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, and his deputy, Rick Gates, were indicted last month. They pleaded not guilty. And Trump campaign foreign policy advisor, George Papadopoulos, pleaded guilty for making a false statement to the FBI, over contacts with officials connected to the Russian government. So again, it's the lying to the FBI that he's being charged with. Flynn's plea agreement stipulates that he'll cooperate with federal, state, or even local investigators in any way Mueller's office might need, according to a document filed in court Friday. He could also be required to participate in covert law enforcement operations, such as wearing a wire, if asked, or share details of his past. Well, now, I mean, you're not going to ask him to wear a wire now. I mean,
Right.
he's been outed. If asked, or share details of his past dealings with the Trump transition and administration. The agreement adds that Mueller's office won't prosecute Flynn for additional crimes they outlined in a statement of offense Friday, such as his misreported foreign lobbying filings about his work for Turkey. If other prosecutors outside the special counsel's office, such as the U.S. attorneys or state law enforcement, wanted to charge Flynn with alleged crimes, they still could. And he's not protected if he lies to investigators again in the future or breaks the terms of his plea agreement. In court, prosecutors detailed calls made by Flynn in late December 2016 to the senior Trump transition team at Mar-a-Lago to discuss conversations with Kislyak. There were multiple conversations with the transition while he was having conversations with Kislyak about Russia sanctions and the Russian response. According to a statement of offense filed in court, Flynn conducted several calls with senior officials on the Trump transition team about his discussions with Kislyak related to U.S. sanctions of Russia. Flynn and Trump advisors discussed U.S. sanctions 3 times. The first call discussed the potential impact on the incoming administration's foreign policy goals, according to the court filing, from which details were partially read during Flynn's plea hearing. Flynn then called Kislyak to ask that Russia not respond too harshly to U.S. sanctions. The statement of offense said he told a Trump transition official about that call. Russia responded by choosing not to retaliate on the sanctions. So if you call Russia and say, please don't go to war with us, that's illegal?
Some kind of crime.
That's a crime?
All this points out, Tim, is that we do not live under a representative form of government anymore at all.
Katie McFarland was a senior transition official at Mar-a-Lago who was described as discussing with Flynn what, if anything, to communicate to the Russian ambassador about U.S. sanctions, according to sources familiar with the matter. McFarland was not named in the document, but sources confirmed she was one of the transition officials described in the court filings. An attorney for McFarland declined comment. McFarland met with Mueller investigators recently to answer questions about Flynn, according to the sources. According to the special counsel charges, McFarland and Flynn talked about the potential impact of the sanctions on the incoming Trump administration's foreign policy, and that the transition team did not want Russia to escalate the situation. Yeah, I mean, that seems to me like a good thing. The bulk of the back-and-forth calls from Flynn to the Russian ambassador and to Trump advisors happened around December 29th, while the advisors were at Mar-a-Lago in Florida. They discussed that the members of the presidential transition team at Mar-a-Lago did not want Russia to escalate the situation, the filing said. Flynn lied to investigators about these calls with the ambassador, according to his guilty plea and the criminal statement of offense. The charging document states that Flynn made a false statement to the FBI when he stated that in December 2016, he did not ask Kislyak to refrain from escalating the situation in response to the sanctions that the United States had imposed against Russia that same day, and Flynn did not recall the Russian ambassador subsequently telling him that Russia had chosen to moderate its response to those sanctions as a result of his request. The document also says that Flynn falsely said he did not ask Kislyak to delay the vote on a pending United Nations Security Council resolution. Flynn's other instance of lying to investigators involved what he told them about his conversations with foreign officials related to the planned UN Security Council votes on Israeli settlements. A very senior member of Trump's transition team, whose sources familiar with the matter told CNN was Kushner, told Flynn on December 22 to contact officials from foreign governments about how they would vote and to influence those governments to delay the vote or defeat the resolution. Flynn then asked Kislyak to vote against or deny the resolution, the statement of offense said. The White House allies initially tried to put a positive spin on the news. One person familiar with the mood of the White House, of the West Wing, insisted top White House officials were breathing a sigh of relief. People in the building are very happy, the source said. This doesn't lead back to Trump in any way, shape, or form. The source noted that Flynn is being charged for making false statements, but not for any improper actions during the campaign. This is a further indication that there's nothing there, the source said. This is a win for the White House. A source with knowledge of the legal team's thinking tells CNN that the Flynn plea is not going to be a problem for the president, though it could be a problem for people who worked with Flynn. The source said legal exposure for others would depend on what they might have said to the special counsel. Hillary Clinton, whom Trump defeated in 2016 general election and was the focus of the lock her up chant, first popularized by Flynn at the Republican National Convention, declined through a spokesman to comment on Friday's developments.
Oh, really? She declined to comment.
But other people are saying lock him up now.
Oh, really?
Other,
Well, this is like some moral equivalence thing. You
Yeah.
said with someone like Hillary Clinton who's so egregiously guilty.
Right,
And
yeah,
by the
so-
way, what is this idea about don't lie to the FBI? All we get is lies from the FBI.
they can lie. Yes, they're allowed to lie to us.
They're allowed to lie. They can
Yes.
also know everything personal about
Yes,
you. Actually.
there's no law that says that the FBI cannot lie to us. That is
they-
true.
I mean, we're just like living in a narrative, like we're living in the matrix
Yeah,
of a narrative.
yeah.
And the FBI is now moral posturing about.
And they lie to us all the time. For example, Las Vegas.
Well, for example, who the heck knows what went on in Las Vegas?
Yeah, we don't know
We
anything.
still don't know.
Because the law refuses
Yeah,
to
yeah.
tell us.
And the
FBI
FBI
refuses to tell us, and what they do tell us is later turns out to be lies. So yeah, there's no problem with them lying to us.
Whatever happened to that sheriff Lombardo? He was getting weaker and weaker, and that FBI guy just sort of
Yeah,
looming over him like this.
I don't know. Maybe he was the second shooter.
He's disappeared.
Flynn's lawyers have previously criticized media reports about his connection to the Russia investigation as peddling unfounded allegations, outrageous claims of treason, and vicious innuendo directed against him. Flynn hasn't spoken publicly since his ouster in February. The charges mark yet another stunning downfall for Flynn, 58. Okay, now this is a CNN article, and now they're doing their commentary now.
Stunning downfall.
Stunning downfall, yeah. Let's see if there's anything else worth.
By the way, I saw that Al Franken is not resigning.
Yeah,
He's doing
and
good.
the pressure is on let's stick with Flynn, all right? So I get brain freezes when you try to. So anyway, yeah. See so now, okay, yeah. So anyway, that's Flynn.
What is CNN saying about him then? Stunning fall.
Stunning fall, yes. So that's it. What let's get to the. Shall we get to the tax cuts now?
But I just one more point about Flynn.
Okay.
It just struck me as when he said doing the best thing for my family and for the country. So, this is the point. When we're in a situation, if I think Mike Flynn, okay, he's an Irish Catholic guy. I grew up in an Irish Catholic home with a dad that was, had been trained by Jesuits at Boston College in logic, and he had a clear system of morality that he was absolutely consistent with. I think Mike Flynn is the same type of guy. So I think what Mike Flynn was doing in his lying, quote unquote. Remember the situation. I mean, Hillary Clinton and the Democrats were ginning up World War III with the Russians.
That's right.
He was diffusing this situation.
Yes.
And he acted morally, I'm sure, in everything he did, even in telling his fibs to the FBI. That's what FBI means, right? Fibs. But what they've done is broken him down because of his family situation.
Yes.
So you see, we all have that Achilles heel of our personal life, our personal family, and they got to him that way.
Yes.
So, this is like demonic, man. It's like the U.S. under, that's kind of a strong word, isn't it? I mean, but really.
Well, it's demonic, I think, is correct, because at that time, remember, they were trying to figure out a way to keep Trump from being inaugurated, trying to maybe, for example, if war were to start, then maybe martial law could be declared or something like that. And even some of the celebrities, what was the name of that person that was calling for martial law in order to prevent Trump from being inaugurated?
Rosie O'Donnell.
Rosie O'Donnell was calling for martial
Madonna.
law. Madonna wanted to blow up the White House, but but Rosie O'Donnell was actually calling for martial law. These Democratic.
Right. Did you know the tanks moving in closer and closer?
Liberals,
to the
yes, bring in the tanks.
as the election drew near.
So, the Democrats were trying to do anything and everything to prevent Trump from being inaugurated, and even at the cost of destroying the country, cost of destroying democracy. And Flynn, I think, was like you say, was diffusing World War III, and now he's being arrested for it. Now he's being indicted for it. Yeah, but he's pleading guilty for it. So he's pleading guilty for it. So. but the major crime that he's being charged with is lying to the FBI. We'll still have to see how this finally works out. And it may be that everyone at the very end gets off scot-free, and then everyone and what about meanwhile? What about Hillary's crimes? What about the uranium deal? Uranium One. What about her emails? What about the way that the FBI did their non-investigation of the emails of the email service? What's happening with that? That's what I think we should be asking as well.
Mike Flynn reminds me of the Clancy novels with Jack Ryan. When Jack Ryan was the CIA spy that became president of the United States, and it was about the Russians actually. Remember they hijacked the jet, hijacked Air Force One, and threatening his family. And so Jack Ryan is president of the United States. Of course, he was a Boston College graduate as well, Irish Catholic. Okay, and he had to make a decision, a moral decision. Am I going to favor the nation or my family? The nation or my family struggled, and at the end of the day, he had to protect his family. That's where Mike Flynn is right now.
Well, let's take a break and we'll come back with news about the tax cuts that passed earlier this morning.
Hi there, folks, and look at what I've got here today. My God, take a look at this. This is a BFR in 454 Casull with an octagonal barrel, magna porting, micarta grips. And look at that, it even has my initials on it, JM. Look at that thing of beauty, my God. Pop open the cartridge insertion door, and look at that cylinder spin. The finest revolvers in the world. That's a cannon. That's a cannon. Oh, man. Pretty accurate, though. Pretty much on target. Oh boy! Massive repo.
And welcome back to the King's Report for Saturday, November, not November anymore, December 2nd, 2017, 8th year of Chungi, 10th month and 15th day by the heavenly calendar. Tim Elder and Ted O'Grady in for the second king of Chandragupta, Hyung Jin-moon. So while you were asleep, the Senate passed its version of the tax reform bill, So now we have two separate bills. The House has already passed its, and the Senate has now passed its now as of this morning. And so now they're going to, I think starting Monday, they're going to get together and work out a bill that both of them can pass in exactly the same language. And once they do that, then that will go to the White House, and the president says he hopes to have that before Christmas. So they're going to have to work out some differences. Let's see what happened early this morning. The UN Senate voted just before 2 a.m. Eastern Time Saturday to pass a sweeping tax overhaul worth roughly $1.4 trillion, putting the Trump White House a big step closer to its first major legislative victory. This is not CNN.
No, okay. Which one is this?
This is Fox News.
Okay.
And many Americans closer to a tax cut. The vote was 51-49, with the Republican Bob Corker of Tennessee, the only member of the GOP to side with the Democrats in opposition.
McCain voted for it then.
I guess so, yes.
That's
yes.
good news. Must have repented.
Let's see. One good act does not make a trend. Not long after the vote, President Donald Trump tweeted his reaction. We are one step closer to delivering massive, in all caps, tax cuts for working families across America, the president wrote. Special thanks to Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and Chairman Senator Orrin Hatch for shepherding our bill through the Senate. Look forward to signing a final bill before Christmas, he says. House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, Democrat of California, also responded, calling the legislation a betrayal of the American middle class. The GOP tax scam is a product of haste, carelessness, and cruelty, Pelosi wrote. It was written on Republicans' trickle-down delusions, not an analysis or facts. It was written first and foremost for the wealthiest 1%, not middle-class families trying to get ahead. All right. The bill is not yet finalized. Saturday's vote means the Senate and House have passed similar tax reform bills, but negotiators from both chambers will start meeting Monday to agree on a single piece of legislation that both chambers must approve before it is sent to the president for his signature. Here's how the latest legislation would affect you. So let's see.
Okay.
What deductions can I claim under the Senate bill that just passed? Now, remember that a lot of us don't claim deductions except for the standard deduction.
Right.
So for a lot of us, the question is, okay, what is the standard deduction going to be? And we'll see.
Okay.
The Senate bill does away with federal deductions for state and local income and sales taxes, but allows deductions of up to $10,000 in local property taxes. The legislation originally eliminated federal deduction for all states and local taxes, but the property tax exemption was later added at the insistence of Senator Susan Collins, Republican of Maine, who said she was delighted about the change. So
she's more of a liberal Republican.
So deductions up to $10,000. So that would cover pretty much, I think, almost all houses in this area anyway.
Okay. Yeah.
I've seen some pretty big houses that maybe their taxes are more than $10,000, but that's, but I would say 99% of the houses in this area in Pennsylvania, Northeast Pennsylvania, would be under that $10,000 limit. So
that helps the middle class.
So if you are itemizing your deductions, all right, so and maybe people don't know the difference, but some people itemize deductions and some people don't. So if you are itemizing your deductions, this might affect you. What about personal deductions? Like the House bill, Senate bill nearly doubles the standard deduction level. See, this is what interests a lot of people who do not itemize, to $12,000 for individuals, which up to $6,350, and $24,000 for couples, up to $12,700, up from $12,700. So, and people who itemize, I think, in majority of cases, it's people who are paying mortgages and mortgage interest. That itemize, because they are paying, depending on how much they pay, So now, if as a couple, you have less than $24,000 in itemized deductions, then you're better off just taking the personal deduction of $24,000 and just forgetting the itemization. So to me, that's the big thing here, that the standard deduction is being almost doubled to $24,000.
That's huge.
Yeah.
It also makes it quite much easier to file your taxes, too.
Yeah. And it also means that if as a couple, you're earning, say, If you're earning $24,000, then it all goes away with that one deduction. So then your taxable income is zero, so that is I think that is.
Why isn't Nancy Pelosi, for this, for the Democrats? Because that's helping people get up.
Yes.
People that are working middle class, lower middle class.
Because she earns more than $24,000.
Oh, so she's upset because she's not able to. She's not getting enough itemized deductions. She's also from California, isn't she?
Well,
Isn't there some issue?
which is a high high tax state.
High tax state. So isn't there an issue with this about eliminating deductions for the state taxes?
Yes. So the Senate bill does away with federal deductions for state and local income and sales taxes. So, yes. So now what that means is that the states have to compete. For example, New York, Pennsylvania, we're right next to each other.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania has lower taxes.
Right.
So not only are you paying less here, but now you're less affected by this. By this, your federal taxes are also affected if you are itemizing. All right, I always put that in because if you are itemizing, because many people don't itemize. Right, many people don't itemize because they're better off just taking the standard deduction. The Senate bill retains the current limit for the home mortgage interest deduction to interest paid on the first $1 million of the loan. Okay. The House bill reduces the limit to $500,000 for new home purchases. The Senate version also preserves the deduction for medical expenses not covered by insurance. The House bill does not, but ends deductions for moving expenses and tax preparation. Why does the Senate bill allow deducting medical expenses not covered by insurance? Because the Senate bill also repeals the Obamacare's individual mandate.
All right.
They sort of stuck that in there.
Okay.
While the House bill does not. That's one thing.
Is that the end of Obamacare then?
No, it's not the end of Obamacare. It's a
the mandate forces the businesses to insure their employees?
This is the individual mandate. This is the one where I have to, and for a while I was paying penalty because I refused to go along and get an Obamacare. Now I'm on Medicare. But I refused to go along, so I just paid the penalty until I was old enough to get Medicare.
Okay.
So, but now, if that's the Senate and House disagree on this. This is one of the things they're going to have to negotiate, whether to eliminate the Obamacare individual mandate. Right now, all individuals are required to have insurance. And if you don't have insurance,
you pay a penalty.
You pay a penalty.
Is it more than the premium of the insurance? Probably
for many people. So that's what people have been for me, it was not.
Okay.
All right. For many people, for example, maybe they had to pay $1,200 for the year.
Yeah.
I heard some people are paying thousands of dollars in premiums a month on their Obamacare insurances. So, it depends on whether you have actual need for insurance and things like this and stuff like that. But anyway, it's an individual. But see, it becomes an individual decision. Then you have freedom then to choose whether or not to have insurance. Okay. But you can
have no one is stepping in here, moving back to the USA.
So now, but anyway, this is what I'm very much in favor of repealing the Obamacare individual mandate because this is forced on people. You are forced
That's horrible.
Yeah, and they take your money if you don't do it. And the personal exemption, the Senate and House bill both eliminate the $4,050 personal tax exemption. Will the tax brackets change at all? The Senate bill keeps the 7 tax brackets, but reduces them to 10, 12, 22, 24, 32, 35, and 38%. The current brackets are 10, 15, 25, 28, 30, 31, 29, 29.6%. Okay, pop quiz. So basically, they're coming down a bit. So 10 goes to 10.
What's the
current
limit on
15 goes to 12. The current 25 goes to 22. The current 28 goes to 24. The current 33 goes to 32. And the current 35 stays at 35. The current 39.6 goes to 38.5. Anyway, so there's a little bit of a dropping in the tax brackets rates. The House measure condenses 7 brackets to 4. But under the Chung Constitution, there's no income tax anyway.
Right.
So there are no tax brackets. Under the Chung Constitution, there's also no property tax, no corporate income tax, the major form of taxation is the sales tax.
Right.
And there's a limit that the government cannot receive revenue that exceeds 10% of the gross domestic product.
Okay.
So, and I don't know what the sales tax will be. Since the government is much smaller, they will not need nearly as much revenue as they have now. In fact, it cannot be more than 10% of the gross domestic product. So, maybe it'll be 10%, maybe 15%, I don't know. But every time you buy something, you'll be paying a little bit of, you'll be paying tax. But there's no income tax, so there are no tax brackets. Okay? Right. The Senate bill allows owners of so-called pass-through businesses, that is, businesses that aren't incorporated, to deduct 23% of their earnings and then pay at their personal income tax rate on the remainder. This issue was a key concern of Senators Ron Johnson, Republican of Wisconsin, and Steve Daine, Republican of Montana, both whom announced this week they would support the bill. What about corporate tax rates? Like the House bill, the Senate bill cuts the current 35% tax rate to 20%. But the Senate bill calls for a 1-year delay in dropping the rate.
Why is that?
When will tax reform take effect? Now, this is the downer. President Trump and congressional Republicans have vowed to make a tax reform law before the end of the year. If that happens, most of the provisions would come into force on January 1. Will tax reform affect my returns for this year? The changes will not have any impact on your taxes for 2017.
Okay.
That's the downer.
We got to wait a year.
We got to wait a year. But it means that if you're receiving a salary and your taxes are being deducted from your salary each month,
so
then you'll get more take-home pay starting in January.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
So just next thing, 2018, you file with the new regime.
The changes will not have any impact on your taxes for 2017, which are due to the IRS by April 17th, 2018, not 15th.
Oh, really? Okay.
You get an extra 48 hours to file. Hey, an extra 48 hours to procrastinate because the traditional April 15th due date falls on a Sunday. So when will the differences in the bill be hashed out? The House will vote on a motion to go to conference on the tax bills on Monday evening. The Senate is expected to vote on a similar measure soon after. Congress is scheduled to adjourn for its Christmas break on December 15th, but House Speaker Paul Ryan has said he will keep the House in session beyond that date, if necessary, to get tax reform passed.
Well, that's when Star Wars comes out, so they're not going to stay after December 15th.
They'll break, I'm sure, for Star Wars.
They have to. But it was interesting with Chon Il-guk, just the idea of value-added tax.
No, not value-added.
Sales tax.
Sales tax.
It's not value-added tax?
Not value-added. It's sales tax.
What's the difference?
And I don't know enough to be able to explain that. But there is a difference.
Okay. Because like in the UK, just, after being over there with, socialist utopia, you have taxes, income taxes. So the structure's quite similar to here as far as, I think 40% is the highest bracket. But then you have VAT of 20% on everything, literally everything. So in Chon Il-guk, okay, let's say we have Chon Il-guk sovereignty, we're starting to build a state or whatever. The central government, the government would be, I assume the central government of Chon Il-guk can only collect up to 10% of gross domestic product on sales tax. And sales tax is their only means of collecting revenue. So what that means is that as businesses grow, businesses have to grow to support the Chon Il-guk government. In other words, the size of the government is proportional to the size of the economy, and it'll be limited to 10%. So it's going to be the case where
if that, because I think. And I think as people take more and more of an ownership consciousness and realize that more and more functions can be performed in the private sector, that it'll be substantially below 10%.
It would seem so.
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, in the early years of the United States, the government was run around the 5% level.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah, or 5 or 6, 7%, something like that. And 10% was, even the 10% was way more than what was needed. But at that time, people had much more of an ownership in private sector consciousness, saying that we're going to do what we want to do, we'll just do what we need to do, and we're not going to worry about what the government says. And the government also really wasn't too worried about these kinds of things. It was only after we develop this consciousness, oh, there's a problem. What's the government going to do about this?
Right.
Not, oh, there's a problem. What can we do to solve this? They say, oh, what's the government going to do about this problem? No, well, I sit back. So that's the slave consciousness.
Right.
That's the slave consciousness. Oh, the roof of my house is leaking. When is my owner going to come and fix it? You know, but that's the slave consciousness. Yeah, I think that government will be reduced well before 10%. I expect over time, perhaps, as people develop more and more of a ownership consciousness, and as they do, taxes will also be less and less because there'll be less need for, especially government especially at the federal level. At the federal level, yeah. Because remember, Chunuk will fill the earth, and I think it will also. I expect it will fill the entire universe.
Okay.
I expect that a million years from now, Chunuk will fill the entire physical universe, and that I don't know if people will be living on planets or using planets as to mine their resources or whatever they will do. They'll figure that out, I'm sure. But and this Constitution will be the Constitution that will apply to people throughout the universe. Yeah.
So that's the challenge of Chunuk. What we're facing here.
So right now we're sort of working out the kinks before we scale up.
Yeah, okay.
We're beta testing before we scale up.
Yeah.
Right. So we got this thing in the early stages of our testing. We developed this thing called Original Sin, which we've been working on, and as soon as we get that figured out, we're gonna scale this thing up to the rest of the universe.
So in regard to beta testing, are we crusty old beta males, Tim, you and I, or are we regenerated alpha males?
Focus. So anyway.
You got the opportunity to go to training with the king, get down on the mat and get beat up. I mean, I'm there with John Clark. The problem with me and John Clark, Roland, is that we're both Irish. We get Irish blood. So then, the king is saying, just do this little choke. Just do this little choke. Do it 50 times. But then John's on top of me, and he just can't resist, the desire to pummel me. So, we become good friends. But, I mean, you got to go step by step, eh?
Focus. All right, let's take a break, and we'll be back with more news. I promise, news from a Chunuk perspective.
Little hands, shoeless feet, lonely eyes looking back at me.
And welcome back to the King's Report for Saturday, December 2nd, 2017. I got it right this time.
Yeah.
And I'm Tim Elder and Ted Grady here for the Second King of Cheonryuk Hyung Moon. And we are focused on the news.
That's right.
Okay. Let's talk about national reciprocity for concealed carry. National reciprocity for concealed carry expected on the House floor next week. National reciprocity for concealed carry is expected to be introduced on the House floor for a vote next week. Breitbart News reported that the legislation received a markup from the House Judiciary Committee on Wednesday. That markup indicated committee members were confident national reciprocity had the momentum to reach the House floor. The legislation, the actual name is Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act of 2017, was introduced by Representative Richard Hudson, Republican of North Carolina, on January 3, 2017. It treats concealed carry permits like driver's licenses, making a permit from one state valid in the other 49. This saves the common man the hassle of navigating the cumbersome patchwork of concealed carry laws that exist in the U.S., making it easier for him to be armed to defend himself and his family should the need arise. National reciprocity moved toward markup, Representative Hudson said, "My bill is a simple common-sense solution to the confusing hodgepodge of concealed carry reciprocity agreements between the states. It will affirm that law-abiding citizens who are qualified to carry concealed in one state can also carry in other states that allow residents to do so. I am pleased to see such strong support in committee, and I look forward to continuing this momentum and bringing the bill to the House floor as soon as possible." Political reports that Hudson's bill is strongly favored by National Rifle Association, but has drawn fierce opposition from gun control advocates who say it effectively nullifies restrictions passed in states that want to limit the practice.
That's right.
Gun control advocate Gabby Giffords pointed to the Texas church attack as a reason to oppose the concealed carry legislation. She did not mention that the congregation was unarmed and the attacker was stopped by a citizen who retrieved his own gun, ran to church, and shot the attacker.
Living in the Matrix, Tim.
But 24 state attorneys general call Congress to pass national reciprocity for concealed carry. On December 1st, national reciprocity for concealed carry gained the support of a coalition of 24 state attorneys general from around the country. Earlier in the day, Breitbart News reported that the legislation is expected to make it to the House floor for a vote next week. Hudson's legislation treats concealed carry permits like driver's licenses, etc. So the 24 states, let me read them out. Pennsylvania is not here.
No.
Alabama, Arizona, this is the honor roll.
Okay.
Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Indiana, Kansas, Louisiana, Michigan, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, Nevada, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, no P's, South Carolina, South Dakota, Texas, Utah, West Virginia, Wisconsin, Wyoming. Gun control lobby member Gabby Giffords posted on October 1, posits the October 1 Las Vegas attack as a reason to oppose national reciprocity. She also suggested that a bill that allows law-abiding citizens to keep their guns with them more often will weaken our public safety. So that's
Piers Morgan weigh in on this. We're all morons, you know.
Probably.
British Pratt, upper class Pratt. Come on. Piers Morgan. I mean, didn't he win The Apprentice? Actually, with Trump, he won the Celebrity Apprentice over
He did.
there. But Trump didn't rub off on him. What the heck happened? What's up with that, Piers? I tell you what, we have the Second Amendment in East London with Tommy Robinson, and we would have, a peaceful UK united with sovereignty in the USA. That's what.
But this is especially important for those of us who are living near a state border, where on the other side of the border we're not allowed to carry.
Right.
So, for example, here in northeast Pennsylvania, every time we go to Port Jervis or anytime or Middletown, New York, or anytime we go into New Jersey to, that mall that's there in the northwest corner of New Jersey, we have to leave our guns at home or someplace. And if we forget and take our guns across the river, across the Delaware River, and get caught, we're in trouble. As one
10
lady
years in jail, right?
Well, as one lady in Philadelphia found out,
Really?
She missed her exit, driving around or somewhere, I guess, there near the river in Philadelphia, and she missed her exit.
Yeah.
Found herself in New Jersey, and in an attempt to get back into Pennsylvania, I guess she broke the traffic law and was stopped by a New Jersey state policeman, and she actually told him that she was armed.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
Which in Pennsylvania you're not required to do, you can do.
Right.
But so the New Jersey policeman immediately arrested her,
Wow.
and she was tried and convicted and everything like that, and sentenced to multiple years in jail. But the New Jersey governor, Chris Christie, fortunately a Republican, pardoned her, and so she was able to sort of get back into Pennsylvania, really, just barely with the skin of her teeth. But that kind of thing, I believe, would be avoided by this. That because she was legally carrying in Pennsylvania,
Right.
she had a legal permit to carry in Pennsylvania. And but that doesn't do you any good if you happen to be in New Jersey or in New York. They say, well, where's your New York permit? Where's your New Jersey permit? I don't have one. Well, hands behind your back.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen the legislation, but I understand that it will do that. But I think also you still have to follow the laws about where to carry and that kind of thing in each of those states. But at least we'll be able to carry in the other states.
I mean, that's a very good thing, Tim. I mean,
It is an excellent thing.
Because we have a federal republic, so
Yes.
That's a strength and a weakness in a way. I mean, how do we create a nation? I imagine Chonoguk's going to be like that as well. I mean, as these Chonoguk sovereignties pop up all around the world, as the king has said, they're going to have different characteristics.
Well, Chonoguk Constitution specifies that individuals are allowed to be armed.
Okay.
Yes.
So this would not be an issue in
This would not be an issue. This would not be
That's
an
like
issue.
an inviolable, immutable.
Yes. It would be against the
Right.
Constitution for individuals to be prevented from carrying arms in Chonoguk. It's, I'm sure there will be restrictions maybe on, criminals or maybe not, I don't know. If you're a criminal and you're carrying and you try to do something criminal, then maybe people just take you out and that'll be the end of it. I don't know. So, but anyway, that'll be worked out. But anyway, in the Constitution, it guarantees the right to bear arms for individuals. And that the word individuals is there in the
So
Constitution.
there's a prohibition for a standing army, is there not?
There is a prohibition for a standing army, although there will be a small core of army leaders who will maintain the equipment for it to be used by the militia when it is called up. But yes,
Right. So, I mean, militia is going to be very strong in Chonoguk.
yes, it will need to be.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if it is not strong, Chonoguk will be invaded and be taken over by foreign powers.
Right.
So, yes, in Chonoguk there will be, I'm sure, a lot of military training by where able-bodied citizens will participate, so that they can train and to and if they are strong, just like Switzerland was strong during the Second World War when Hitler was considering to invade it, but he did not because of the strength of the Swiss military, and what. And Hitler realized that if he did invade Switzerland, he would suffer very large losses, and he chose not. So he chose not to do that. So really, that's why it will be a peace militia, a peace militia. It will be a strong militia, well-trained militia that will be able to be mobilized within minutes, really within minutes of a foreign attack, and so. But I believe there will be a standing Air Force and Navy, just not a standing Army, because in the past, in history, centralized powers and governments have often used armies to suppress their own citizens.
If you notice that some of those states you read out, of course, so you want to get a list of those. Those are the places you want to live.
Well, Pennsylvania is not on this list.
Well, I don't know why not. But I mean, they have the National Guards in the states like the Midwest that kind of comparable in a way to the militia. These are guys that
Well,
are
I think
citizens,
National
right?
Guard exists in all states, don't they?
Yeah. So, I mean, the framework is in place. But I think this kind of thing is that the fact that the government is looking at the reciprocity rule, it's a good trend. Because we do have to kind of live together as these 50 confederated states for a while.
Okay, so the Pennsylvania Attorney General is Josh Shapiro, who is a Democrat. And maybe that explains why Pennsylvania failed to make that honor roll.
Would seem so.
When is he up for election? Is he up for election next year? Which expired January 2017. Yeah, it looks like he still has a few years to go. Nominated to serve as January 17th. Was Josh succeeded Bruce Beamer. So I don't see when the next election is, but yeah, we need to change this Attorney General who failed to get Pennsylvania onto this honor roll of Attorneys General asking for, urging Congress to pass a national reciprocity. All right, let's take a break, and we'll be back with more news after this.
Thanks.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Boy, wasn't that fun shooting this Tommy gun today?
It's always fun shooting Tommy guns. This one especially. It's just absolutely gorgeous.
All polished and chromed up. It really looks like $1,000,000.
Yeah. Elliot Ness would have loved one of those.
Yeah, and it's available right now in your favorite dealer, and you go pick one up.
Yeah. Just have him call your distributor.
I mean, the gun, was initially made way back when, back in the 27 is this one.
Yeah. Model
But
27.
I was surprised by how quick it knocked down those plates.
Oh, 3.5 second run. Under 3.5 second run, knocking down a plate right. 341.
I mean, the gun is heavy. It's about, 12, 14 pounds, especially with this drum, but it's surprising how quick you can go with it. It would actually make quite a good self-defense rifle at home.
If I climbed in somebody's window and they were aiming that at me, I think I'd get out of there real quick. So
That sounds about right to me.
Just the intimidation factor alone.
Fire!
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
And welcome back to the King's Report for Saturday, December 2nd, 2017. I'm Tim Elder with Ted O'Grady, and for the second king of Cheongguk, Hyung Moon. Robots could replace nearly a third of U.S. workforce by 2030. As the Washington Post story, over the next 13 years, the rising tide of automation will force as many as 70 million workers in the United States to find another way to make money, a new study from the global consultancy McKinsey predicts. That means nearly a third of the American workforce could face the need to pick up new skills or enter different fields in the near future, said the report's co-author, Michael Chui, a partner at the McKinsey Global Institute who studies business and economics. We believe that everyone will need to do retraining over time, he said. The shift could displace people at every stage of their career, Chui said. By 2030, the researchers estimated the demand for office support workers in the U.S. will drop by 20%. That includes secretaries, paralegals, and anyone in charge of administrative tasks. During the same period, the need for people doing predictable physical work, construction equipment installation and repair, card dealing, security guarding, dishwashing, and food preparation, for example, will fall by 30%. Other advanced economies, such as Germany and Japan, will see at least a third of their workforce similarly disrupted, the report concludes. China's share will be smaller, 12%, since more employers there will still find it cheaper to employ humans. We can all go to China to work.
Oh, great. It's a great opportunity, man. You can slave labor over there.
Machines can increasingly perform tasks that people have long handled. They scan Tylenol and lip balm at the drugstore. They build pickup trucks. They take your grilled cheese order at Panera. Technology could replace up to 375 million employees worldwide by 2030, the McKinsey authors estimate. The jobs most at risk involve repetitive tasks. About half the duties workers handle globally could be automated, according to the report, though less than 5% of occupations could be entirely taken over by computers. Caretakers, psychologists, artists, writers, anyone who relies on empathy or creative work can expect to have most job security as automation continues to spread, said Jason Hong, a computer science professor at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh. Artificial intelligence is now taking over even white-collar jobs, he said, but those that require lots of human touch and communication won't be easily automated. Still, McKinsey researchers foresee substantial workplace transformations across the globe, which they think calls for more public investment in job training centers and education. The shift could be on a scale not seen since the transition of the labor force out of agriculture in the early 1900s in the United States and Europe, and more recently in China, the authors wrote. A May survey from the Pew Research Center revealed anxiety among bosses. About a third of business leaders and technology watchers in a group of roughly 1,400 expressed no confidence that the country's education system and job training programs will evolve quickly enough to meet the next decade's labor demands. But the McKinsey study, an 8-month endeavor, offers hope. Susan Lund, a labor economist at the firm, said automation will open more jobs, workers who create robots, workers that run computers, occupations we can't yet imagine, and ultimately boost U.S. productivity and general well-being as long as the workforce can adequately adjust to a new climate. Earlier this month, she pointed out Stanford University researchers found that a machine could better diagnose pneumonia than radiologists. This is how our children could end up with a better standard of living than we have. Lund said, we want to be able to transition our workforce so that the people displaced can get new jobs and we can capture the benefits without the downside. You know, when I graduated high school, I had never seen a computer.
Okay.
I had heard about them. Mm-hmm. The first time I saw a computer was when I got to college, and there was one computer on campus.
Right.
And it filled the entire basement. This one computer filled the entire basement of the main administration building. And I took a course in, I think it was maybe it was a non-credit course in computer programming.
Yeah.
Fortran, I think, something like that.
COBOL.
Fortran. And because I thought, well, it was, maybe necessary in the future, maybe couldn't. Of course, I didn't follow it up. And we got to use this one computer that was that was on the college campus. All right, one computer. No one had desktop computers or laptop computers or cell phones or anything like that. There was one computer on campus. This Midwest College, and the one computer filled because and you had these large tape
vacuum the tapes and the vacuum tubes,
right, and they were all and all lights are coming on and everything like that. And we asked them, "What are you going to do with this thing?" And they said, "Oh, we're going to input all the student data into this." And in the future, we'll be recording students' grades, and in the future, all right.
Right.
And of course, then there was no keyboard. You could not input data into the
Right.
computer with a keyboard.
No.
You had what do you call it? Optic. Anyway, you had
They
cards.
punch cards?
You had cards, and you punched holes
Yeah.
in the cards, and you passed it through a thing, a light, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the computer would read the cards by seeing where the holes were in the
Yeah.
in the cards.
Yeah.
So-
Okay.
And it took a lot of time to punch those cards. So you would go to the computer with a stack of cards like this, right? You would feed it into the card reader, and it would read the cards that you had spent hours and hours and hours. It was faster actually to do it by hand. So my point is, the stuff that we're doing today, I could never have imagined when I graduated
No.
from high school.
No.
So the stuff that, I mean, people graduating from high school today, people who are in their 20s or early 20s or something like that, you have no idea what you're going to be doing or what tools you're going to be using 20, 30 years from now,
Right.
or even what occupations you're going to be doing.
Right.
I think most of the occupations that we have today we could not have imagined back when I graduated high school in 1970. Yeah.
I mean, farming is going to be great in the future.
Yeah.
I think that's fake news, actually, what you just read.
So anyway, people are always worried about this, man. But we do have one upside to this. That is that our politicians will eventually be taken over by robots. The Daily Star in the UK. The future intelligent robot politicians aiming to stand in 2020. So this is fake news, right? This is. I'm pretty sure this is fake news. But anyway,
I think really, Tim, one thing they might consider for these politicians is, solve the sexual problems. You just provide like a sex robot for each congressman when they get in there.
Come on. Let me get through this first. Intelligent AI is sweeping the globe with predictions a third of the U.S. workforce will be replaced by AI in the near future. The tech experts such as Elon Musk and Stephen Hawking have warned that intelligent AI is the greatest risk to the future of humanity. But despite this, AI could be set to move into politics. In scenes like an episode of Black Mirror, AI program Sam is aiming to enter the political scene in New Zealand. Both ends in the nation have developed Sam to be able to answer questions on a range of subjects, including policy, education, and immigration. Sam is also developing his knowledge by having conversations with people on Facebook Live. Yeah, maybe people will vote for this guy.
People just have too much time.
I
on
will
their
change
hands.
over
Too much
time to
on their
reflect the
hands,
issues that the people in New Zealand care about most. Nick Garrettson, creator of Sam, has claimed the robot will be intelligent enough to compete in the 2020 New Zealand general election.
Really? He'd be a good candidate.
Isn't there something in the Constitution about you have to be a human being? It says you have to be age 25 or something like that, or 30 or something like that. I think you have to be 35 to be president. But I don't know if the Founding Fathers actually thought to put in that you have to be a human being.
Well, there was an issue. I mean, there was an issue about whether blacks were human beings. Weren't they 3/4 of a human being in the Constitution? And wasn't there a discussion? So I mean,
that was in the original Constitution. Yes,
3/4 of a vote.
That was certainly one of the crimes and sins of the U.S. that in the original U.S. Constitution, when the census was taken, I think it was slaves.
Slaves,
yes.
yeah.
I think free blacks were not.
No, they wouldn't have been.
Were not counted this way, but slaves were counted as 3/4 of one person in the census. But that, of course, was later repealed and is no longer a part of the U.S. Constitution.
But that was probably an issue of representation, how many representatives they would send to Congress.
Yes.
So that was probably an important issue in,
Yes.
disempower the
So now,
somewhat.
well, let's stick to the present. You keep drawing me off course. AI. So will AI be represented as 3/4? I don't think so. I think it'll be 0. People vote for this guy. I mean, they probably deserve it. If people would vote for a robot to be their president, then they probably will deserve what they get. I would say, but I suspect that in the Chanuguk, people will not be. People have enough ownership consciousness not to be voting for AI politicians.
You remember that movie with Will Smith with Sonny the Robot? Do you remember?
No, I don't.
Well, Sonny was a great robot, and he was supposedly he was becoming empathetic. He was developing human emotions. But at the end of the day, his logical brain took over and organized all the robots to destroy humanity.
Yes.
So,
And, like in 2001 A Space Odyssey, which I did see,
yeah,
where Hal says,
yeah,
I'm sorry, Dave,
yeah.
I can't do that. And he leaves Dave outside the space pod. Yeah. So, yeah, we could definitely see that. Yeah.
But they could be programmed to speak in very sympathetic
tones, yes.
tones.
Hal was very sympathetic, but he wasn't going to open that pod door.
No, he wasn't, was he?
All right, let's go to Morning Joe. Morning Joe ups the ante, calls for cabinet-led coup. Sociopath Trump must be removed, he says.
Did they take that dead body out of his office yet?
That was 28 years ago, I think. The hosts of Morning Joe are using Morning Joe are using their show to rally members of Trump's cabinet to remove the president from office. This, I think, would be the 25th Amendment they mentioned here.
Okay.
This cabinet-led coup could happen via the 25th Amendment, host Joe Scarborough said Friday. That amendment to the Constitution adopted in 1967 deals with replacing a president who is no longer able to, quote, discharge the powers and duties of his office, unquote, which these hosts say applies to Trump due to his apparent mental incapacitation. If you've been around mental health issues in your life, the pressure heightens, it gets worse, Donnie Deutsch said Friday, and we should be frightened right now. We should be, there's nothing glib about it. And at what point do you go to Article 25? Deutsch asked. He meant not article, but the 25th Amendment.
I thought half of them are mental cases anyway. In Congress.
The point I want to make, though, is that this is what is done in communist countries and also in Nazi Germany and fascist countries, where you use psychology and mental illness to send your opponents away. So there's a politicization of mental illness. Is very dangerous, and this is what the left is now doing. They failed to defeat Donald Trump in the presidential election last year. They failed to get the Electoral College to overturn the to overturn the vote, the constitutional vote. They failed to prevent Donald Trump from being inaugurated in January. And so now they're trying to use the 25th Amendment of the Constitution. This has been going on, sort of simmering for a while.
Yeah.
Now Joe Scarborough and the people on that show are trying to sort of rally the members of the cabinet to get Trump removed from office that way. I think it's something like a majority or 2/3 or something like that of the cabinet has to vote in favor, and I think so. Then the vice president takes over. And I don't know if Trump is going to be reelected in 2020. He's not a politician. If he were a politician, he would be worried. He would be focusing on 2020 right about now and trying to do things that would get him reelected. But instead of doing that, he's doing things that he thinks need to be done. And will the American people make the wise choice and reelect him in 2020? That's going to be a fight, I can tell. But fortunately, we have a president who is not focused on that reelection. He's focused on doing what is right for the country, and he's calling people out. Rocket Man, and Pocahontas, and all these other people. And he's continually pointing out the dangers of radical Islamic terror, retweeting videos from UK that get him in trouble with Theresa May. He doesn't care, he doesn't care.
No,
Theresa May and the British government strike back and say, don't do that. You're supposed to be a politician. You're supposed to be a diplomat. He ain't a politician. We didn't want a politician, and he's not a politician.
No.
And that's what we like about him. And of course, the left is going to continue to say that he's crazy because he does not follow their script. He does not follow their script. Deutsch said he's able to diagnose a change in Trump's mental state. I've known him for 20 years, and I've spent hours and hours with him, everything from negotiating lease to school functions to hours and hours of interviewing him on my old show. He's not the same guy. You can see it in his eyes and in his speech pattern, and most frighteningly in his behavior. I think there's something else happening here. If you've been around mental illness and whatnot, I think he's feeling the noose around his neck tightening with Mueller. So, yeah. Isn't that something? They put pressure on him through Mueller, and then they say that pressure is now giving them the excuse to remove him through the 25th Amendment.
You know what this reminds me of, Tim?
What does it remind you of?
It reminds me of when I first joined the church in 1976 and went through an attempted deprogramming. And in that situation, when I was taken physically out and was held by whoever, a few people, how could they justify that? They had to justify that I had mental problems.
Yes.
When you justify that by an argument, say this person has mental problems, then the next step is to he has no rights.
Right. That's
because
right.
that person has mental problems, he has no rights. We're assuming custodianship over him. So the word was custodianship. And so they created euphemistic terms, softer terms like interventions and a custodianship and this kind of thing. But the way I got out of that was I went through like a week or 10 days or 2 weeks, I don't even remember how long it was. At one point tried to physically escape. You know, got in a fist fight with my captor. And then was admonished, hey Ted, he could really do some damage to you if you do that again. So that was after trying to escape from the van that was going across country somewhere. But finally they put me in a halfway house. So what happened was I had an argument and understood where they were coming from psychologically and used their argument to say, okay, I think I agree with you guys. I need a little time out here. Are we done now? Have you done what you need to do with me? And they were tired. You know, they were tired. This is kind of what Trump does to his enemies, right? They were tired of me, so put them in a halfway house. So then the halfway house, I had an interview. Like it would be like this with the psychologist who runs the halfway house, which is somewhere up in New Hampshire or something. And in the interview, I asked her, well, okay, I'm being rehabilitated now. Am I free here? She said, oh, yes, you are. Okay. So am I free to walk out the door then? She was silent, so I picked up my bag and walked out the door.
Good for you.
So then for the next few hours, I was skulking around, you know, worried about the police coming, who was going to grab me, and because I was psychologically still captured. So I just skulked around and found a phone and finally was able to get the heck out of there.
Oh, good.
So I mean, what the point I'm making is that what's happening to Trump now, because Trump is ordained of God and because Father's working with him, it's the same tactic, the same strategy to dehumanize him, to say he has mental problems, to take his rights away, so then they can exert their satanic power through psychiatry.
And they even say that people who support him have mental problems.
Well, we do, apparently. By their narrative. By
their narrative, yes. Let me go to a story on North Korea. You were asking about North Korea during the break, and we do have one story on North Korea that the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said on Friday that a U.S. threat to destroy North Korea in the event of a war was a bloodthirsty tirade, and military action against Pyongyang would be a big mistake. Speaking on a visit to Italy, Lavrov strongly condemned comments made by U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Nikki Haley, who earlier this week warned North Korea's leadership it would be utterly destroyed if war were to break out after Pyongyang test fired its most advanced missile. If someone really wants to use force to, as the U.S. representative to the United Nations put it, destroy North Korea, then I think that is playing with fire and a big mistake, Lavrov told reporters. He called Haley's speech on North Korea, which she made at an emergency UN Security Council meeting, a really bloodthirsty tirade. We will do everything to ensure that the use of force doesn't happen so that the problem is decided only using peaceful and political diplomatic means, said Lavrov. Later addressing a Rome conference, Lavrov said Russia and the United States both wanted North Korea to disarm, but Washington would send a bad message if it walked away from a 2015 nuclear deal with Iran. But in this way, being crazy, you can be crazy like a fox.
Okay.
And the Russians and the Chinese are afraid that Trump is crazy and that he may actually attack North Korea.
Right.
So I think because they believe that, they're going to solve this North Korea situation.
Okay.
I still have hope in Xi Jinping and perhaps even Putin that they are going to go in there and they're going to do this. I don't want the U.S. to be the one to have to take out North Korea, because that would create a terrible mess. Would create a terrible mess, like the Russian guy says here, the foreign minister says here. Yeah. But if China would do it, then it would certainly be a lot cleaner, a lot cleaner. And China certainly has the capability to do it. All they have to do is develop the will. Yeah. And I think that will can be developed if they feel that if they don't do something, Trump will, and so they better do something.
But then what about Russia? They're relatively quiet on this. They do border North Korea.
They do have a border with North Korea, and Russia traditionally has been very interested in the Korean Peninsula because they warm ports and all that, and also because of the Korean Peninsula commands that ocean that is between Japan and Korea and China and Russia. But Russia has been relatively quiet. They've been sort of trying to stand back. For one thing, they don't have that much leverage over North Korea since the Soviet Union fell. Right. And North Korea sees them as having been a failed socialist state or a failed communist state. Okay. And also, Russia has been taking up some of the slack when China reduces oil exports to North Korea. Russia will substitute some of that. Yeah. And I think especially their airplane fuel imports have been coming mostly from Russia now. But yet Russia has been relatively quiet, and the U.S. is not leaning on Russia nearly as much as it is on China. But China wants to be the leader of the world. Okay, well, you can start by taking care of North Korea. Start there.
Well, Trump did meet with Putin on his Asia trip, didn't he?
Of course, they've
got to be talking to each other.
They are talking to each other. Yeah, they are talking to each other. Okay. Let's see what we have here. Shall we do the Waffle House story just for laughs? This is in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. This happened in West Columbia, South Carolina. A hungry
Waffle Houses were great when we were blitzing. We'll meet you at the Waffle House at 2 a.m.
A hungry, slightly inebriated man knew just what to do when he stopped by a South Carolina Waffle House early Thursday, only to find the restaurant staff snoozing. He cooked up his own meal, snapping selfies along the way. Alex Bowen said in a Facebook post that he stopped by a Waffle House in West Columbia because he couldn't sleep. The restaurant's employees apparently did not have the same problem. I walked back outside to my car to look for my employees. To look for employees, Bowen told WIS. No one in sight. It wasn't until he walked back inside the restaurant that he noticed an employee snoozing in a corner booth. Then it was go time, Bowen told WIS. I got on the grill with a double Texas bacon cheesesteak with extra pickles. When I was done, I cleaned the grill, collected my ill-gotten sandwich, and rolled out. He told WIS that he wouldn't normally have gotten behind the grill. I give all the credit to my old friend Vodka, Bowen said. He said he returned later to pay for the sandwich. As proof, he posted a photo on Facebook of himself smiling with a Waffle House employee.
Didn't get him on DUI after that? After his admission of...
In a statement released to WIS, a Waffle House spokesperson said employees reached out to Bowen to apologize and that the employee photographed by Bowen while sleeping in one of the restaurant's booths had been suspended for a week. Just a week.
Okay.
For safety reasons, our customers should never have to go behind the counter, the statement said. Rather, they should get a quality experience delivered by friendly associates. We are reviewing this incident and will take appropriate disciplinary action.
So you can get some extra rest in that week.
Now, when he took this selfie, he is smiling. The Waffle House employee is not smiling. Just notice that in the back. Let's take a break, and we'll be back with more news from a Chonic perspective.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Car Arms, Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group. With a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Car Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood. The history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun. To the best in compact concealed carry. Car Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Car Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit car.com today.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
And welcome back to the King's Report for December 2nd, 2017. I believe we are now in our final segment, yes. And Tim Elder with Ted O'Grady here in for the second king of Cheongguk, Hyung Jin-moon. Another big thing that is coming up in the next few days is that it looks like President Trump, or at least according to a report, is going to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital. That's supposed to come up now in a Wednesday speech. That's being reported by the Times of Israel. Defying longstanding American policy, the U.S. President Donald Trump will give a speech Wednesday recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital, according to an Axios report on Friday. A White House spokesman contacted by the Times of Israel on Friday afternoon would not confirm the story. The president has always said it is a matter of when and not if, the official said. The president is still considering options, and we have nothing to announce. The Axios report cited two sources with direct knowledge of Trump's intentions. This is kind of a big thing in terms of Middle East politics, and also in terms of U.S. Domestic politics, because, of course, right now, the United States and many other countries recognize Tel Aviv as the capital and not Jerusalem. And there is a U.S. consulate in Jerusalem, and recognizing it's a building, and it's right there by Independence Park. Okay. And if anyone attended the crowning of Jesus in 2000,
yeah, I wasn't there.
2000-something.
Were you there, Tim?
Yeah, I was there. Yeah,
okay.
It was right across from the park there, and actually, all it involves is taking the sign that's on the U.S. Embassy in Tel Aviv on that building,
right,
and placing it on the building that is in Jerusalem. That's all you have to do. But in terms of international law, in terms of Middle East politics, it's a big thing. Let's see if I can get this article here in the Times of Israel. Multiple reports surfaced this week that the president would for the second time waive a congressional mandate requiring the U.S. Embassy to be moved from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, but that he would take a dramatic step of formally recognizing the holy city as Israel's capital. As Israeli television reported on Wednesday, for instance, said that the Israeli government considered it extremely likely that Trump would declare in the next few days that he recognizes Jerusalem as Israel's capital, and that he is instructing his officials to prepare to move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem from Tel Aviv. The White House rejected that report as premature. On Tuesday, U.S. Vice President Mike Pence said Trump is actively considering when and how to move the American embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Pence spoke at a gathering of UN ambassadors, diplomats, and Jewish leaders at an event in New York commemorating the 70th anniversary of the UN vote for partition of Palestine, which led to the creation of the State of Israel. Declaring Jerusalem as Israel's capital would be a highly controversial move with the potential to spark unrest in the Middle East. The Wall Street Journal reported that U.S. officials were contacting embassies in the region, warning them to prepare for the possibility of violent protests. A presidential declaration could risk producing an angry response from Palestinian and other Arab allies like Jordan and Saudi Arabia, just as the Trump White House is preparing to move forward with its attempts to broker a Mideast peace accord. Israel says Jerusalem is the eternal and undivided capital of the Jewish state, while the Palestinians claim East Jerusalem as the capital of a future state. Trump's senior advisor and son-in-law Jared Kushner has been tasked with leading the administration's peace efforts. He will participate in a highly anticipated keynote conversation this Sunday at the Brookings Institution's Saban Forum in Washington, D.C., marking a rare occasion when he will give public remarks and discuss the administration's peace push. And Jared Kushner, by the way, is an Orthodox Jew.
He's an Orthodox Jew.
At that point, he will likely face questions about the Trump team's position vis-a-vis Jerusalem and how that might impact their quest to forge an agreement between the sides. A 1995 law requires the relocation of the U.S. Embassy in Israel to Jerusalem, but provides the president with the prerogative to postpone the move every 6 months on national security grounds. Each of Trump's three immediate predecessors, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama, repeatedly exercised that right. Trump, for his part, signed the waiver when faced with his first deadline in June. He will have to decide whether to sign it for a second time in his presidency on Monday. While the official deadline is December 1, since that date falls on a Friday this year, the deadline is extended until after the weekend. Israel's Channel 10 TV News, citing sources in Israel, said there were three camps in the White House with differing opinions on how to deal with the issue. The first was pushing the president not to sign the waiver and start the process of moving the embassy, and also recognize Jerusalem at Israel's capital. At Israel's capital, it could happen that the president might simply not sign the waiver, Channel 10 reported Friday. A second camp says don't do anything, sign the waiver, and don't recognize Jerusalem, as it would harm prospects for a peace process and hurt ties with Arab states. The third group is urging the president to sign the waiver, but make a symbolic gesture by recognizing Jerusalem as the capital, the report said. So among those three, Breitbart is predicting, or Axios, I guess, is predicting that he will do the third thing, to sign the waiver for another 6 months, but recognize Jerusalem as the capital. And this will, as this article says, this will be very controversial if it happens, because the fate of Jerusalem for 2,000 years has been a very controversial city.
Mm-hmm. Right. The thing is, Tim, this is all the seed of Abraham.
Mm-hmm. Well,
in the Arab world,
we need to examine that, actually.
Okay.
Because there's another story out there that says that the Abraham in the Quran is not the Abraham in the Bible.
Really?
Yes. That the Abraham in the Quran comes from a different place.
Okay.
Yes. So anyway, so this thing about all being the seed of Abraham, we'll have to, I think that maybe bears some additional examination. But anyway, for now, all right, well, I'll go ahead with that. Yeah. For now, we'll go ahead and accept that.
I mean, what do you think about this?
About this? About moving?
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because we need to,
It's restoration of sovereignty.
It is upholding the Judeo-Christian tradition.
Which is our line, our
the
bloodline.
Judeo part of that
it's the
tradition.
bloodline of God.
Yes, the Judeo part of that tradition. So I think the U.S. Needs to be solidly behind all the Israels, the first, the second, the third.
Amen. And our Jew on that
fourth, the United States needs to support Judaism, needs to support Christianity, both of those against Islam, and needs to really stand firm. And I think that this would be an excellent way of doing that, of showing that the United States is firmly behind Israel. It will be controversial within the United States as well, of course, because Jews in the United States do have a very strong various strong organizations and have a great deal of lobbying power,
Right.
in many ways. And traditionally, I think they have voted mostly Democrat. So we'll see how this affects that political equation. Yeah.
But I mean, we do have Ben Shapiro, we do have the Orthodox Jews, we do have the Hasidic community in Washington Heights.
Right.
You know, we have the bloodline of God in the U.S. I would love to see this happen.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens on Monday, whether the president will sign that waiver. He has to decide whether or not to sign that waiver, whether or not to extend another 6 months the transfer of the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, and also what happens on Wednesday when it is predicted that even if he does sign the waiver on Monday, right now it is predicted by some reports that he will make this speech recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. That would be a tremendous,
huge.
I guess this would be a Hanukkah present, I guess.
Merry Christmas as well.
This would be a Hanukkah present, yes. As we have just a minute or so left, but Jackie Mason says, 2017 is the year of the pervert. In these trying times, Jackie Mason is the voice of reason.
He's a comedian.
Last days, folks, last days. In the latest exclusive clip for Breitbart News, Jackie goes over the latest allegations in the ongoing sex scandal currently roiling Hollywood politics and the media. And as usual, Jackie's here to make some diagnoses. It turns out to be a very interesting year this year, Jackie explains. You know, 2017, according to the Chinese calendar, is known as the year of the rooster, but not in this country. In this country, it is known as the year of the pervert. Jackie says some of the men most recently caught up in the scandal are simply dealing with never-before-seen medical conditions.
Yeah.
Al Franken is suffering from all kinds of problems. His biggest problem right now is figuring out how to be able to keep his hands to himself. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's a condition called TAS, touching ass syndrome. I don't know.
No, I guess you're touching breast syndrome, Tim.
Yeah, that was Franken. Yeah. And I don't know if you've heard of this story. Did you hear about Charlie Rose, the kind of disease he has?
No.
He has something nobody ever heard of before. It's called EPD. I won't read it yourself. Read it yourself. Read it yourself.
EPD.
Jackie also said the first E stands for exposing. Jackie also said Matt Lauer's behavior must have been worse than anyone could imagine after how quickly NBC News fired him, while he also takes aim at Michigan Congressman John Conyers and specifically Nancy Pelosi's handling of the scandal. She can't get over this man. She says John Conyers is an American icon, Jackie explains. This Yenta, who herself is an American icon, can't get over the fact that she's found another person even lower than her. Jackie says the scandal has gotten so bad that he's afraid to even pick up a newspaper these days, lest someone... Who picks up newspapers these days? Anyway,
Jackie Mason does.
Unless someone thinks he's reading porn magazine. He leaves us with this final thought. You thought it was hard to get into that Broadway show Hamilton that everybody says it's impossible to get into? It's nothing compared to getting into a sex clinic right now for these perverts. Watch Jackie's latest. All right. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. And we'll let Jackie Mason have the last word for this weekend. Enjoy your weekend. Get out this weekend because it's going to turn colder next week. And this may be your last opportunity to really get out before that cold strikes. And so if you like this weather, enjoy it now. Get out into nature. Get out into nature. All right, and put your family before your career, and your career should be a side dish, as we read earlier in this broadcast. All right.
Thank
you very much, Ted. Thank you for
Tim.
being here, and thanks to everyone. God bless, Godspeed, and may His kingdom come.
Amen.